Morning, the Commission resumes. Mr. Matunjwa, are you still under oath?
Yes.
Mr. Berger, I understand you have further cross-examination for the witness.
Thank you, Chair. Morning, Mr. Matunjwa.
Good morning, Mr. Becker.
We've concluded yesterday on the discussion about the relationship between AMCO and NUM, and may I just wrap that up with a final point? May I ask you to have a look at Exhibit 009?
Ajonge exhibit 009 enye yezincwadi ezikhona apha emva kokuba mbuze athi sigqibele izolo ngobudlelwano obukhoyo phakathi kweNUM ne-AMCO.
Chair, may I ask my attorney to sit behind the witness? It's just going to facilitate the evidence.
The witness doesn't object. I will allow you to do so. You don't mind, do you?
Ahlala emva kwakho.
Any assistance that will make
I knew you'd be cooperative. Yes,
Uthi ndiyakuvela noma ngoluphi uncedo oluzongaba khona xa kucela okokuba ummeli osincedana ne-advocate ahlala apha emva kwakhe amnikeze izincwadi ezifunekayo.
Mr. Matunjwa, 009 is a transcript of your interaction with the workers on the morning of the 16th of August. And I want your attention, please, for page 9.
Incwadi kuthethwa ngayo ke i-transcript yentetho yakhe nabasebenzi ngalo mini.
That's the page which, at the top of the second column, starts with the word employees. Do you have that?
yes, employees, Viva, on that note, it's written.
Now, can I take you to the middle of that page? You're speaking, and you start off by saying, Comrade, we talked about the situation of Lonmin, where it started, because it is shown to the world that it has started on Saturday. We as AMCO said that was a lie. I really want your attention for the next section, because we are debating now the relationship between AMCO and NUM. So what I want to read with you now is the next sentence.
Sizawufunda ke umsho olandelayo apha ngoba umbuzo endiwujongise kuwe ngoku ubudlelwano bakho neNUM, AMCO neNUM.
The killing of people started on Friday, where employees were marching to the stadium to talk about their views and rights. Where we were told yesterday here, members from the NUM office came out holding guns and shot at you, and 2 employees were killed.
funda lapho ethi ke ukuthe unemachi yayisuke ofisini isiya phaya kwavela abantu eofisini lenum bajongisa impunga kubo badubula kwasweleka ababili.
Now, in fairness to you, I suspect you don't have knowledge of those two killings on the Friday.
Yes, in the actual fact, later it was rectified. That was not on Friday, it was on Saturday. Thank you.
Iye yalungiswa lonto xa ethi ugqwetha kuye wena ngokwakho awunalo ulwazi ngaloko kubulawa kwabantu uthi iye yalungiswa lonto kwathiwa kwakungasi uLwesihlanu.
The question was really about something else, and that was that you yourself didn't have personal knowledge of these killings.
That's
whether
correct.
they were on Friday or Saturday.
Yes.
It was something that you'd been told.
Yes, thank you.
Into
That's the point
endayiva
Mr.
ngabanye
Bird
ke
was making.
abantu leyo akuyonto bendinolwazi mna ngokwami ngayo noma yenzeke ngoLwesihlanu noma ngoMgqibelo.
What troubles me more is the statement in this context that you made during the media briefing on that Tuesday, 2 days before. That's 002 exhibit.
Into enengxaki ngayo ke intetho wayenza phaya kuba papashu bezindaba apho uthetha khona ngalento zakubonisa lo exhibit.
Now, on page 2 of 002, in the second half of the second unnumbered paragraph, you say, "We were told that people who came out of NUM offices wearing NUM T-shirts opened fire to marchers and one worker was killed on the spot while others were wounded and taken to hospital. Workers have seen the culprits and can identify them by names. That incident led to the eruption of violence and more deaths at the mine." Now, you told us yesterday that when you issue this type of statement, you are very careful to get your facts right. Can you comment on this statement?
Umfundela ke into ayithetha kwaba bapapashi bezindaba kokuba uve kuthiwa kwaphuma ababantu badubula phaya kwaseleka omnye abanye banxeleha ubuzo kokuba ngoku ke yintoni wenze intetho enjengalena.
That is what we were told.
Into nandixelele.
We fortunately know today it's false, but who told you this at the time when you went public to the nation and tell the nation that NUM had killed a person?
Xa usima ke phaya uxelela sonke isizwe kokuba inumi ibulela abantu wawuxelelwa ngubani lo muntu axelela intetho?
I was told by our comrades who were from the management on the 13th in our debriefing on the 14th, on the morning of the 14th, before we went to the media. That's what they gathered from the mountain.
Ngokuba siye phaya kubapapashi bezindaba ngoLwesibini ndaxelelwa ngama-comrade amaqabane abekhona phaya esuka phaya intabeni.
Now, as a responsible leader of a trade union, you realize this was most inflammatory. An accusation that NUM had killed a worker at Lonmin. How did you ensure that that was correct before you went to the media with that statement?
Ngoku phambi kokuba uye kubapapashi bezindaba ngalento enobuzaza obunjena njengomuntu ophethe lapha ku-union wenza isiqiniseko sini sokuba le ntetho iyinyaniso?
I didn't believe that the senior leadership of NEC, if they are debriefing on such an issue, they will mislead me on that.
Andizange ndikholwa uba abantu abaphezulu phaya kwi-NEC xa benza ingxelo enjengalena baza kundixokela.
Does the comrade who told you this have a name?
Le comrade yaxela lento ngubani igama layo inalo igama?
Yes,
Who is it?
Ewe
Jeffrey Mphahlele.
nguJeffrey Mphahlele.
And did you ask this gentleman where he got this information from?
Wambuza kokuba uyifumene phi ke lento axela.
I did, as I've answered, that he got it from the mountain.
Ewe ndambuza njengoba ngicela ukuba ifumene phaa entabeni.
When did you discover that that was wrong and that that killing had not taken place?
Ngoku ke inyani wayiva nini okokuba yenzekanga loo nto njengoba besisho nje.
In as much I couldn't recall when was that, but I did find out, and I even make notes that it was not on the Friday. It took place on the Saturday.
Noma ndingakhumbuli kokuba ndayiva nini kodwa ke nje njoba ngiyayilungisa loo nto ukuba yenzekanga ngoLwesihlanu yenzeka ngoMgqibelo.
No, but we know today that on the Saturday, NUM did not kill anybody on the evidence available to the Commission, Mr. Matunjwa.
Ubungqina obukhoyo apha kuCommission ke buthi inuma ibulalanga mntu ngoMgqibelo. Thini apho?
Yes, indeed. I think one of the counsel from the Justice Department, they lead the very same question. Then I said, because I was not there, it happened that the shooting took place, but I don't confirm that any person was killed.
The counsel who asked you the question was Mr. Madlanga, who's not a counsel from the Justice Department. He's the leader of the evidence leading team of the commission
Umhlekazi
appointed
Madlanga
by the commission itself.
akamelanga ezobulungisa apha ngumuntu nje ozisa ubungqina ngaphambili akamelanga isebe elithize.
My apology to the commissioner.
Ndiyaxolisa.
Mr. Matunjwa, so you knew then that a statement you had sent out into the world about NUM was wrong. Did you apologize to NUM and retract that statement in public?
Ngoku mhlekazi usuvile okokuba lento wayithetha wayixelela isizwe sonke ayonyani ngenumu. Yewaxolisa kwinumu kanene wavela uveza okokuba loo nto ndandiyithethile akuyonyani.
I didn't, but if the opportunity will present itself, I'll do that.
Andizange ukude kube ngoku kodwa ke xa ithuba lingaba khona ndiza kuyenza loo nto.
Would you take this opportunity and apologize now to NUM for that false statement?
Asekunika elithuba langoku uzimisele okokuba ucele uxolo kwinumu.
I can convey that there was a shooting, but the killing was not.
Ndingatsho okokuba ukubulala kona kwaba khona kodwa ke
I didn't follow that answer.
andiyivanga kakuhle le mpendulo.
Said, I can apologize to say there was no death or killing, but there was a shooting. That was further confirmed on the 15th by the same comrades at the mountain.
Olisa kwami ndizawuthi ewe akuzange kubekho umuntu oswelakelayo apho kodwa ke ukudubula kwaba khona njengoba ndanixelelwe liComrade.
I'm still probing AMCO's relationship with NUM. In the same exhibit,
Move on, Mr. Berg. What sort of apology is that?
Uxolisa
You made a
kanjani?
serious allegation
Kanduku?
that people from NUM had killed someone from AMCO.
Not from AMCO, Commissioner.
So, okay, I'm sorry. You made an allegation, you're correct, I'm wrong. I apologize. You made an allegation that someone from NUM had killed one of the people who were marching, I think it was, on that date. And you, in fact, went further. You said that incident led to the eruption of the violence and more deaths at the mine. Now, you now concede that the statement that someone was killed by a person wearing a NUM T-shirt was incorrect. You say you can apologize, and you're invited to apologize. Why don't you apologize?
Ucela ngokuba unikwe ithuba lokuba uxolise ngokungale ntetho Mathunjwa apho wathi wena abantu omnye wayenxibe i-t-shirt yenumu nguye wadubula kwaseleka abantu eyabangela izixholo-xholo ezenzeka apho. Unikwa ithuba ngoku lokuthi uxolise apho uxolisa kanjani?
Yes, I said, yes, I can apologize. I was just saying, for the sake of that, people were killed, but the shootings, it was confirmed that there was a shooting.
You see, no, I understand that. But, you know, if you say, I can apologize, it doesn't mean you are apologizing. So do you apologize or don't you?
Ndibuza okokuba uyaxolisa ikanene awuxolisi na ngoba esethi yena ndixolisa okokuba kube khona abantu abaselekile kodwa ke ukudubula kona kwakukhona.
I do apologize.
Ndiyaxolisa.
Mr. Matunjwa, on exhibit 009, that's your speech on the mountain on the 16th, on page 11, there's another indication of how you felt about NUM at the time, and you speaking as the president of AMCO.
Statement sakho apha uthetha khona phaya entabeni uthetha njengopresident we-AMCO uyabonisa futhi okokuba udlelwano onalo neNUM lunjani.
There you say, about 5 lines from the top, these men discussed and agreed in the boardroom that they should come because NUM saw that it had no control, because you told Zokwana that you were no longer his members because of what he has done by shooting you on Friday. Is that you speaking?
Uwe luthetha apha othi lamadoda kakuthethwa phaya ayavuma eboardroom atsho okokuba awasana lawulo kuni ngoba nina nixelele uZokwana okokuba nisewo amalunga ombutho wakhe ngoba kuba idubule abanye ngolesihlanu.
That's correct.
Ewe ndimi ndithetha apha.
I want to ask you a question, but I'd like to read the whole passage before I pose the question. It goes on.
Ndifuna ukufunda yonke le ntetho phambi kokuba ndibuze umbuzo olandelayo.
Something like this, comrade, needs strategy that is more than the knowledge of a person. We want a strategy from heaven and from the ancestors to reach us and talk and see how far we can go, because the employer wants to run away from your demands and hide with the fact that employees were violent. That is why they were killed. NUM would get an opportunity to go back to the platform to continue oppressing the black nation.
Intetho yakhe futhi ifundeka ngolohlobo ke ukuba apha mawethu sidinga ulwazi olungaphezulu kokuqonda komuntu, sidinga apha usizo oluvela kumdali, sidinga usizo oluvela nakwizinyanya okuba mayisetshenzwe ngoluphi uhlobo lento ngoba umqashi uzoloku eqindezele abasebenzi neNUM ifumane ithuba lokuba ibuyele kwiplatform iqhubeke ngokuthi iqindezele isizwe.
Why did you say that, Mr. Matunjwa, in a volatile situation, hours before 34 people lost their lives?
Wenziwa yintoni Mathunjwa ukuba thetha into njengale nerhabaxa ngolhlobo kwizihlele phaya apho kwaku isimo simanzonzo khona imizuzwana njengaphambi kokuba kusweleke abantu abangu-34.
I was confirming what Mr. Zokwane has said.
Ndandinyanisa into eyayithethwe uZokwana.
I mean, the workers have said to me
Nditsho ndandixelelwe ngabasebenzi kum, ndandixelelwe ngabasebenzi.
that they don't want Mr. Zokwane anymore because they'd shoot at them.
Bathi abasamfuna uZokwana ngoba bebadubulile.
No, but remember your mandate at that stage. It's a 3-point mandate. You must convey to the workers that they must put down their weapons, they must leave, and they must go back to work. What I'm asking you is, why this inflammatory statement on the morning of the 16th to the workers?
Ngoba wawuthunywe izinto ezintathu nje gqitha phaya wawuthunyelwa okokuba uyoxela abasebenzi ukuba bekwe phansi izixhobo basuke apho entabeni baphinde emsebenzini. Yintoni ngokuwathetha intetho erhabaxa ngoluhlobo?
If you read further with the statement, you will find that indeed I did say that they have to leave the mountain. And secondly, your client has reneged from its commitment. Your client was no longer with the commitment.
Apho xa ufunda usiya phambili uzawuthola okokuba ndayithetha into mabasuke entabeni. Nalo muntu ummele ke apha wayesejikile sephendukile kulento abe ekuyo.
You know that's not an answer to the question, and you know you're ducking the question.
Ayiqonda into kakuhle kokuba uyawubaleka lo mbuzo awuphenduli lo mbuzo ndikubuzayo.
But I'll go on to the next question. I want to know why you accuse Noom here of oppressing the black nation. What did you meant by that in the context of what I term an acidic relationship between AMCU and Noom?
Apha ndibuza umbuzo kokuba yintoni uchola inum apha kokuba ngabo baqindezela baqindezela isizwe.
That was because of what has happened. They've shot at the people.
Ndandithetha ngento esenzekile andithi babedubule abantu.
Mr. Matunjwa, you don't know about that shooting. The first version that you had of the shooting got it wrong and you spread a false rumor into the country. So
Mr.
perhaps
Matunjwa.
stay with what you know. And let me pose my question again. Why do you
Awunalwazi.
on this occasion accuse Noom of oppressing the black nation?
Mathunja unalo ulwazi ngalento ithetha into ivile njena usutshilo kokuba wawuxelele into engeyona. Umbuzo okhona ngokuba yintoni uthetha ngolu hlobo ngenum okokuba ngabo abangabaqindezeli besizwe esintsundu.
That is what I've said.
Nditsho njalo.
And you have no explanation for it.
Awunankcazelo kokuba uyithetha loo nto ngamaphi amazwi.
Yes, this is what I've said.
Ewe ndithethe kanjalo.
I'm not sure it's fair to say you've got no explanation. Perhaps you should give him an opportunity to explain it.
Xa ungamniki
And
ithuba.
if he can't
Bheka.
explain it, then you can put the point to him. But if he does explain it, then the point will fall away.
Sorry, Chair, I thought I were there, but let me put it again to him. Do you have an explanation for this accusation, Mr. Matunjwa? I know you said it, but do you have an explanation for having said it?
Buzo nje okokuba unaso na isizathu ongasinikeza ngokwinkcazelo kokuba yintoni wathetha amazwi arhabaxa kanje ngaloo mini.
It's because of the people, what they were saying, that they've been to NUM with so many times, they've been paying the subscription to them, and at the end of the day, they are shooting at them.
Into eyayithethwa ngabantu kokuba bayeka ninzi kwi-NUM bebhatala imali ye-subscriptions bade badubula.
I want to go to a new subject. I want to put to you what I will argue at the end of the inquiry, and it is this, that Lonmans' attitude to the unprotected strike was throughout consistent and clear. They wouldn't negotiate with those workers. Do you accept that?
Beke kuwe ngolu hlobo kokuba in-lon mini yayimi kunto kuba kude kufike ekugqibeleni abanawuvuma ukuthetha naba bantu.
I'll dispute that.
Yakuyikhanyela ke loo nto.
So let's go the long way around.
Masiyithathe ke ngendlela ende mhlekazi.
On Friday, the 10th of August, they sought an interdict from the Labour Court to stop the unprotected strike. You know about that.
Ndithi ngolwesihlanu mhla ka-10 baya e-High Court okokuba kuyawustopiwa le nto yale strike esingekho emthethweni.
That's correct.
Ewe kunjalo.
In fact, those papers were served on AMCO and the order was granted unopposed.
Andithi amaphepha anikezwa kwi-AMCO anizange niyikhanyele niyiphikise loo nto ecourt.
That's correct.
Ewe.
On the Wednesday, the 15th of August, you and Mr. Barnard Mkwena inter alia speak on SAFM.
Ngolwesithathu mhla zingu-15 ku-August wena nomhlekazi uBarnard Mkwena nathetha kwi-SAFM.
We have a transcript of that interview as LL.
Ayoke le ntetho apha i-exhibit yakhona ngu-LL.
And on page 8, lines 9 to 11, Mr. Mkwena said, "We will not engage people who engage in criminal activity outside the union structures." You heard that.
Yes, I heard that.
On page 23,
Just a minute, sir.
There's no line here.
No, isuka apha.
Type page 23 at the top,
Okay.
line 13.
Uyayivuma into yokokuba wathi uMokoena asinakuthetha
Mr. Mokoena
ngalento
says,
zizenzo zolwaphulomthetho.
Lolani, that's why there are rules in this country that determine any public gathering. There are rules established by organizations that are agreed by unions. At Lonmin, we have rules that govern union activity in mass meetings. Now, Friday, none of the rules were observed, not one. And the question is, this is for the first time in the history of our organization that workers who know these rules, disregard all these rules. So why did the workers disregard the rules? Did you hear that?
Umfundela apha ku page 23 apho kuthetha khona uMokoena athi xolani sisona sizathu leso ngoba kunemithetho kulelizwe ephathelene nezinhlangano ezidlangalaleni.
Yes.
And on
Ewe.
page 24, lest there be any misunderstanding, he explains it again. On line 9, he says the following, page 24,
Page 24.
Exhibit LL.
Line number say?
Line 9.
No.
As we speak now, we have 4 unions at Lonmin with full organizational rights. NUM is the majority union at Lonmin. They have full organizational rights, bargaining rights. We have UASA. We have Solidarity. We have SAPAWU. And then we have AMCO, which came to Lonmin about a year ago. They have members at one section of our operation where they are the majority, but on the bigger scale of things at Lonmin, they don't have the numbers to give them the rights, the full rights. We are agreed with AMCO, with Joseph, that because you have the majority members at Kari, we will allow you to represent your workers when there are grievances. It's a constitutional right. We made that very clear. Did you hear that statement?
Uyivile le ntetho kaMokoena apha? Apha uMokoena esithi khona njengoba sithetha khona iunion ezine apha eLonmin ezinamalungelo okuorganizer. Sine NUM eyiyona inkulu bekuza ene rights zebargaining. Bese kuza iUASA, Solidarity, SAPAWU neAMCU enonyaka nje apha enabantu isininzi ke kodwa eKari. Apho sizovuma khona okokuba uthethele abantu bakho ilungelo onalo elo ngaphansi komgaqo-siseko. Uyivile loo ntetho.
Yes.
Mr. Matunjwa, these statements are factually correct. Can the Commission accept this is correct? This was the position on the 15th of August this year at Lonmin.
Ingayamkela iCommission okokuba le nto ibhalwe apha yinyaniso nesimo imeko yayinjalo mhla ka-15 ku-August.
Yes.
Ewe.
You don't agree with me that Lonmin's position was consistent throughout. So let me take you to the briefing which takes place on the 15th. You go from the radio studio and you go to Lonmin, and there's a briefing now because the two parties, the two unions, are going to speak to the workers at the Kopi. And we have a recording of that briefing at 004.
Sinayo ke nentetho eyenzeka apho iunion ezimbini kwakuthethwa phaya kokuba ziyothetha nabantu phaya endabeni.
You must be careful not to. At page 27 and 28, 004, you can also call it 665. What must I refer to now? 565. Mr. Mokoena, I have 3 numbers to work from. I'm told I should work from 565. They all say the same. 665. I'm better on facts than on pagination, hopefully. The page starts, Mr. Mokoena, management, our position is as follows. That's the page I'd like to refer you to. My page is type 19, and it also bears a 665 and a 565.
Just give us a minute to find the right page. R19 doesn't begin with management.
Now, Mr.
It
Mukwena,
must be around here
our
somewhere.
position
Let's
is
see
as
if we can
follows.
find it, and then we can follow the...
Yes.
20 says, begins with the words, that, comma, management made an offer of 700 rand to us. Is that the page you're referring to?
No, Chair. I thought 004 was page 27 and 28. Don't know why we changed that now.
27 begins, Mr. Mukwena, no, because Jomo, Joseph, you had all the time to speak.
Yes, that's the top of the page. I'm lower down on that very same page. Can we stay with 004
Oh, I see,
as
line
a...
17, Mr. Mukwena, our position general is as...
Correct. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you.
That's page 27 over to page 28. Can we stay with that exhibit?
Have you got stronger fingers than I?
Mr. Mutundra, it's difficult enough to be in the witness box, not to have too many papers. Let me just remind you where we are. I'm debating with you that the position of Lonwyn was consistent throughout, and we've now dealt with it, and we're now at the stage where we have the briefing session before you go to the copy on the 15th, and Mr. Mukwena is there, and I suspect you are there, and Mr. Mukwena says the following.
apha ke sisemi kule ndawo ukuba ilonmini yayiloku imi kumazwi ayo njengoba ninaye phaya nawe ukhona apho.
We are willing to engage our employees within the structures that are known in a very safe environment where there are no weapons, not on a mountain. So we are willing to meet our employees through their structures, through their leaders, to discuss any issue, not when they are armed, not when they are actually outside the Lonman property. So when the workers are back, disarmed, tomorrow, tonight, through their leaders, we will meet them. That is our position. So we are not against meeting, discussing issues with employees through the right structures. We are prepared to do that. Did you hear that?
Uyayiva le ntetho kaMukwena xa ethi siloku simi apho sikhona sithi sizimisele ukuthetha ne-union ezamukelekile apha endaweni enokhuselo singayi pha entabeni apho kukhona izixhobo.
That is correct.
Ewe kunjalo.
Can we agree this, Mr. Mutundra? It's a responsible statement by an employer to adopt.
Ndithi esi statement esivakalayo nyani sivela kumqhashi ethetha nomsebenzi wakhe.
Indeed.
Ewe kakhulu.
In fact, that's the way you understood it throughout. If we have a look at your statement NN in paragraph 40, where you say in paragraph 40, and I pick it up at the third sentence, Mr. Mukwena stated that the workers must renounce violence and return to work peacefully, and then Lonman would engage with their grievances. You understood that?
Yes.
Yes.
Uyayiva loo ntetho esi apho bethi khona makubekwe phansi izixhobo kuzawuthethwa nabo bantu.
You actually go further, you say, I welcomed what management was saying.
Waqhubeka ke wena wathi hayi ndiyamukela le nto ethethwa yi-management. Xa in-management isithi bazimisele ukuthetha naba bantu xa kungabekwa phansi izixhobo kungabi khona dushe.
In fact, Mr. Mutundra, this is the statement of AMCO to the outside world. Can I ask you to go back to your media release 002?
Mandiphindele kwintetho yakho xa uthetha nabapapashi bezindaba mhlekazi Mkwe.
002, page 2, the second last unnumbered paragraph.
Page 2, second last paragraph.
I pick it up 4 lines from the top. You're speaking, as stated in numerous occasions in the past, we as AMCO believe in peaceful engagement in whatever labor-related matters. Where parties do not agree, they should follow legitimate dispute resolution mechanisms involving CCMA or other agreed private processes. We always make use of these processes. We cannot all of a sudden resort to violence tactics to pursue our demands in the platinum mines. That's your official stance as AMCO.
Andithi
I stand by it.
apho ku-AMCO okokuba kasizimisele okokuba sisebenze noma ngeziphi izindlela ngaphambi kokuba silandele izindlela ezibekiwe ukugqitha phaya ko-CCMA namanye amasebe abekiwe ukuze azise uxazululo apho kukho imbamba. Ewe.
And that dovetails perfectly with what we have agreed is the responsible stance adopted by Lonmin throughout of this traumatic period.
Ihambelana ke lento nengxelo esithethile apho kokuba i-Lonmin ibiloku imi apho kokuba makulandele izindlela ezizibekiwe.
You agree?
Yes, it is correct, but you need to remember that this was said after the Lonmin has engaged the workers outside these structures.
Ewe kunjalo ke kodwa lento yonke lonto yenzeka emva kokuba i-Lonmin iyaba nokuthetha nabasebenzi ngaphandle kwe-union.
Without even outside the structures referring to the very same majority union which has got bargaining right.
Apha ndithetha ke ngaphandle kwa naleyo union okuthiwa yiyona union enkulu enamalungelo okuthethisana ebargaining.
It engaged individual workers on these demands.
Iyathetha ngalezi mfuno zabasebenzi nabasebenzi ngokwabo.
Yes, I have that as a subject to discuss with you. Your facts are wrong again, and I'll show that to you. But that's not what we're debating now. I'm now debating the stance adopted by Lonmin during the period under discussion, 9 to 16 August 2012. You understood that?
Ndiyeza kuloo ntetho sisathetha ngoku ngezehlakalo ezenzeka phakathi komhla ka-9 nomhla ka-16 ngokuthi i-Lonmin yayimiphi.
As I've said, yes.
Njengoba nitshilo ewe.
I want to go over to another subject now, and this is a statement which you made right at the beginning of your evidence before this commission, where you had said to the commission that there was no precedent for SAPS to receive a memorandum from workers. You remember that evidence?
Uyakhumbula apha ngasekuqaleni kokungqina bakho uthe kwakungekho into yokokuba yayingekho into yokuba i-memorandum le yayizawuthatha ngamaphoyisa into engazange yenzeke.
That is not correct.
Objection, he didn't say that in general, he said a memorandum to management
Athi akashongo kanjalo.
presented
Wathi
to
memorandum
the police.
ku-management.
Yes, I'm willing to. As I understood it, Mr. Mthunjwa, what you indicated to the chair was that it's the first time that you had heard that a complaint, a memorandum from disgruntled workers to address to management, would be received by SAPS. Did
Into
I understand that
wayithetha
correctly?
ile. Wathi wena izikhalo imfuno zabasebenzi ezibhaliwe ezisuka kubo kazamukelwa ngamaphoyisa phaya xa zijongiswe ku-management ayizange yenzeke loo nto.
Do I understand it correctly?
Yes, I said it mustn't set any precedent.
Yes.
Ndathi mna makungenziwa i-president enjengale isibonelo esinjengaleso.
Now, I'll try to show you that what you in fact meant was that Lonmin shouldn't set a precedent by accepting a memorandum from workers who are in an unprotected strike. That was your concern.
Into eyayikuhlenya nengxaki ngayo ukuba i-management ingamukeli i-memorandum evela kubasebenzi bona ngokwabo.
After I was told by Mr. Bernard that the management, it won't receive, they won't avail themselves to receive the memorandum. It's only the SAPS. It's where then I'm coming from. That's the angle I'm coming from.
apha ndivela khona ke mna kula uMokoena ethi Barnard abana kuyamkela leyo nto bona evela kubasebenzi iyawuthathwa ngamapolisa.
Mr. Barnard Mokoena will deny that he ever said that to you.
Uza kuyikhanyela kuBarnard Mokoena lento ba kwintethe njengaleyo ayijongisa kuwe.
Maybe we can request from Vodacom any engagement that I dealt with him on that particular day. Maybe they will assist us with those tapes.
Mhlawumbe bakwa Vodacom bangasinceda ngezo tapes intetho yethu phakathi kwami naye.
Mr. Matunjwa, you're not adverse to recording discussions with third parties, but I will assume for purposes of cross-examination that those transcriptions which support you have been made available to us. You understand that?
Sesinikiwe ezo zinto Mokoena ezinqinela le ntetho oyithethayo.
I was referring when you say Mr. Barnard will deny that.
Bendiphendula apho uthi khona umhlekazi uBarnard uza kuyikhanyela loo nto.
I understood that.
Yakuva apho.
Thank you.
Enkosi.
There was no memorandum handed over on that Friday. You know that.
Akukho memorandum eyanikezwa ngalolo lesihlanu uyayazi loo nto andithi.
Yes,
Ewe.
Management refused to receive any memorandum from the striking workers. You know that.
Andithi uyazi kakuhle ukuba imanagement ayivumanga ukwamkela le memorandum yayiqhamuka kubasebenzi. Uyakwazi oko?
as Barnard has already said that he won't receive it.
Ngoba wayesitshela uBarnard okokuba abanakuyamkela.
Mr. Sinclair, the head of security at Lonman, was then asked to get a memorandum from the workers, and they told him that they were illiterate, they couldn't write, and there was no memorandum. Those were the facts.
Inyani ke okokuba uSinclair ophethe phaya kwi-security kwathiwa uyena makayothatha lo bathi aba bantu hayi asifundanga thina sibhalanga nto.
Which day are you referring to?
The Friday, the 10th of August.
Uthetha ngeyiphi imini ngolwesihlanu?
I don't know.
Hayi andiyazi.
And I've said to you that your concern was that Lonman should not receive a memorandum from striking workers. Will you have a look at Exhibit 001?
Andithi wena into eyayikuphethe kakuba uLonmin ingayamkeli incwadi yezikhalazo evela kubasebenzi. Khawujonge apha ke kule exhibit endibonisa yona.
That was the letter you wrote on that very day to Mr. Barnard Mokoena.
Incwadi yabhalwa nguwe ke lo uyithumela kuBarnard Mokoena.
Do you have that?
Uyiphethe?
The first bullet, you say, however, as AMCO, we propose that whoever will be receiving the memorandum must inform the marchers that by receiving such a memorandum does not set any precedent, you meant. That was your concern. You shouldn't receive, you, Barnard, shouldn't receive a memorandum from these striking workers. And if you do, tell them this is not a precedent.
Tetho yakho yayitsho kanjalo kuba noma bangayamkela le memorandum evela kubasebenzi baxelele okokuba lesi singabe sisibonelo exesheni elizayo.
I was referring to the police.
Ndandithetha ngamapolisa apha.
In fact, you confirm this version in your statement NN in paragraph 18.
Nakwi-statement sakho xa sijonga ku-paragraph 18 iyavela le ntetho.
You said, I advised Mr. Mokoena that if the police received the memorandum from the workers, then they should tell the workers that they were not setting a precedent by doing so. That's the first time that the police gets introduced into the debate.
ekuqaleni kwakho ukuveza ke amapolisa kula xa uthi uthe kumkwena xa amapolisa ngayamkela le memorandum evela kubasebenzi babaxelele okokuba akusethwa precedents akusethwa sibonelo sexesha elizayo ngokwenjenjalo.
That's what I was saying, that when they receive from the police, it mustn't set any precedence that the memorandum will be received by police.
Ndandithetha loo nto okokuba xa bayamkele ivela emapoliseni makube into yokugqibela kungabi sibonakaliso esizokwenzeka kuwo onke amaxesha.
Can I deal next with the important address to the striking workers on the 16th of August, and that is the recording we have as Exhibit 009. Now, Mr. Mkwena, am I correct to understand that on that, Mr. Matunjwa, that on that Thursday morning, it was very important to calm down emotions at the Kopi? You agree with that?
I don't understand your question.
Uthi uyavumelana nami okokuba imoya yayiphakeme ngalowo mini kunzima ukuthi kwehliswe imimoya lephakeme.
You arrive on the 15th and the police physically pleads with you and with NUM to go to the Kopi, convince the people to lay down their arms, to disperse and to go back to work.
Andithi wafika apho nacelwa nenumo okokuba maniye pha entabeni nicenge aba bantu okokuba babeke izixhobo zabo phansi bohlukane apho basuke entabeni.
That's correct?
Ewe kunjalo.
And perhaps we should start there in order to understand why it's a volatile situation. You then go to the Kopi and you speak separately from NUM.
Waya ke entabeni wena wafike wathetha phaya uwedwa uhlukile uchelile kwiNUM.
Correct?
Kunjalo?
That was a protocol that has to be followed.
Indlela ekusetshenzwa ngayo leyo.
NUM gets a bad reception. The workers won't listen to them.
INUM ke ayifumananga lwamkelwa abasebenzi bangavumi ukuthetha nayo.
I was not there. I couldn't even hear.
Ndandingekho andiyivanga ke naloo nto.
You got a warm reception, is my impression from looking at the loud hailer debate, you in the Nyala and the workers at the Kopi. There's a lot of cooperation between the two.
Xa
Am I
ndijonge phaya uthetha uphakathi kwenyala iHippo wamukelwa wena ngesasaza elikhulu kuthethwa phaya nabaqhankqalazi apha ngaphandle.
What I recall is that the proposal from the management was welcomed by the workers.
Into endiyaziyo okokuba into le ntetho yayivela kubaqashi iyamukelwa ngabasebenzi.
Your brief was there to go to the workers and tell them these three things, which we've debated. Lay down your arms, disperse, and go back to work. That correct?
Andithi wena wawuthunyelwe ukuyoxela ezinto zintathu ndizitshoyo bakubekwe phansi izixhobo basuke entabeni baphindele enkomeni.
For the workers to return back to work peacefully and their grievances will be engaged by the employer.
Ngaphandle kwaloko okokuba ke izikhalazo zabo zizawuthathelwa ingqalelo ngabaqeshi.
We have a transcript, or not a transcript, we have a translation of what you said. That's in the running record from page 1810 to 1823. And I'll ask my attorney to just place it before you. We have the record available, so we don't have to give this an exhibit number. but it may be easier for you. What I want to put to you is nowhere do you carry out your mandate. Nowhere do you say to the workers, put down your arms, disperse and go back to work.
apha ke ndibeke iphepha phambi kwakho apha kuyingxelo yakho khona akukho apho kubonakala khona okokuba ke le nto awuyithunywe phaa ukuba
Do you accept that?
yayamkela loo nto.
In my recollection, I did mention,
We have a transcript. Show us, please, where you mentioned
Khumbula
that.
kwam ndayithetha loo nto
We don't have to guess on this one.
jonga apho
You start
kwi-transcript
talking on page 1813. You can read through it. I can't find it, but
1813
you may be
khawusibonisa
able to point out.
usikhombise apho uthetha khona loo nto.
Where do you say to them, you must put down your arms and disperse?
apho uthi khona bekani phantsi izixhobo mawethu nohlukane.
I did say, I remember, I even mentioned that the police are saying there is a rifle that has been lost. If anyone has such, he must live there. They said they must live there, in that mountain. I mentioned that.
Ndayithetha le nto khona apho ndathetha khona okokuba kuthiwa kukhona irifle lomde othethwe ngomnye wenu wabenu xa kukho into enjengaleyo ndicela uba niyishiye apha.
And I cannot fabricate any lies here. And the videos, the person who was taking the video inside the Inyala should come up with those utterances or that communication that I communicated to the workers.
Kwakukho umntu wayethetha ivideo phakathi kwenyala makavele loo mntu naloo nto andinawuza apha ndizoxoka ngento engenzekanga.
So can we agree on this transcript, this translation, we do not find that?
Asitsho kokokuba apha kule asiyifumani loo ntetho.
Yes, if it's not here, that means it was never captured for whatever reason that is not known to me.
Xa ingekho apha ke kusho uba izange ithathwe andazi ke isizathu esenza loo nto kokuba ingathathwa yintoni.
What you say to them at page 1818 is the following.
Enye ke intetho ithethayo phaya page 181 ililandelayo.
What's his name, Joseph? Who's that Malanga? I say you, that may not be correct. Who's Mr. Mahlangu? Is that the interpreter?
Umahlangu ubani lo tolikayo?
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Mr. Mahlangu.
Yeah,
My
Xolisa,
apologies. I'm so afraid that I ascribe a version to the witness that I get it wrong. No, I think it is you talking, the interpreter is just telling us what you said at the copy, Mr.
Kula
Mtundra.
kwachaza khona utolika okokuba kuthiwani phaya kule ntetho ayayitolika yenzeka phaya ekopini.
1818, you say that the employer should give the guarantee that he will talk to us as your union, and he said the people that you chose. Now, does that mean that you tell the workers at the copy that Lonman should give a guarantee that they would talk to AMCO?
Wawusithi apha uLonmin anike lo sithembisa igaranti yokuba uzawuthetha neAMCO.
If I remember, I said the union of your choice.
Xa ndikhumbula kakuhle ndathi iunion ekhethwe nini.
I was not referring to AMCO. AMCO is known that it doesn't have any bargaining rights at Lonmin.
Andithethanga ngoAMCO kuyaziwa okokuba iAMCO ayikafiki apho inelungelo eligcwele lokubhageyina.
Mr. Mtundra, you knew at the copy that the majority of the people chose AMCO. They didn't want NUM. Is that correct?
Wawusazi okokuba phaya entabeni ke ubuninzi babantu babefuna iAMCO bengayifuni iNUM. Kunjalo.
Even that can be the case, but they were not all members of AMCO.
Noma kwakunjalo ke kwakungewona amalunga eAMCO onke.
In other words, they were not members in good standing for that matter.
Amanye ke amazwi bekungazona izimember ezigcwele ngokupheleleyo.
At line 8 there you say, the employer said he binds himself to agreeing that if things go back to normal, that the employees would go back to work, the union that they select, he would be prepared to talk to them.
washo kokuba xa bevumelana ke nabasebenzi ukuba buyele emsebenzini umqeshi kuyawudingeka ukuba azibophezele ukuba uthetha ne-union le ikhethwa ngabo.
That's correct, that's what I've said earlier on.
Where did you get
Ewe.
that mandate from?
Ndiyitshilo loo nto.
When they are saying with their leaders in the right structures, that's referring the right structures in terms of labor relation in bargaining, you're referring to a union.
Xa kuthethwa kanjalo kuthiwa the right structures apha kuyo ke kuthethwa nge-union leyo emele abo bantu.
But AMCO is not one of those with bargaining rights.
Andithi ke amkho
That's correct.
bengabalwa kwezo zinamalungelo apheleleyo ewe.
Then I don't follow what you say opposite line 1 to 3. Let's read it jointly together again.
Siyifunde
That
ke
the
sobabini.
employer should give the guarantee that he will talk to us as your union.
Apha usithi khona
Who is us? Isn't it AMCO?
makavume umqeshi ukuba uyawuthetha nathi njengabantu abanimeleyo.
It depends how you interpret it, but I'm the union, NUM it's a union, but us as a union, we are the unions. We are not a company when we're presenting those people.
Uthi xa ethetha ngathi usho noma eyiphi i-union uthetha amkho i-union noma i-union uthi phaya xa sithi thina besitsho abameli abamele abasebenzi.
Yes. So we know on that occasion you go to the copy, and in this transcript we do not find you carrying out the mandate you have. But I'm still on that morning of the 16th of August.
Sephaya nge-16 August kusasa ke uthunyelwe phaya entabeni kokuba uyothetha naba bantu ngezinto ezintathu uthunywe zona ungazenzanga.
Can we now agree that it is a morning where one should try, as a responsible union leader, to calm emotions? At the
Sawuvumelana kokuba njengomntu ongumholi kwakudingeka okokuba uye phaya uyozama ukuhlisa imimoya.
The morning of the 16th was informed about the processes of the 15th, of the debriefing of the 15th of August.
Into eyenzeka nge-16 ke yayisithathelwe kwingxelo eyayenziwe ngemini egqithileyo nge-15.
No, I'm asking something else. This is
Without
not a
winning.
time to sweep up emotions at the copy, the morning of the 16th. Do you accept that?
Uyavumelana nami kokuba kusasa nge-16 kwakungelona ixesha lokuthi kuyiwe phaya uyophakamisa imimoya yabantu. Kunjalo.
The morning of the 16th was supposedly to be the day when we explain to the employees with regard to the commitment of the employer towards their strike.
16 ke kusasa kwakuyimini apho kwakufanele sise i-report evela kumqashi apho ezibophezela khona kubasebenzi bakhe.
As they have requested in the evening of the 15th, the workers.
Ngoba babenze esisicelo ngokuhlwa kwe-15.
I'm going to pose the question again because at the end I want to argue with reference to this part of the record that you on purpose do not answer a question. The question is a simple one.
Zawubuza ke lo mbuzo futhi Mathunja ngoba ndiyawuthi ekugqibeleni ndibeke phambi kweCommission okokuba ubungayiphenduli imibuzo ibalekele.
A responsible trade union leader should not have swept up emotions on the morning of the 16th of August at the copy.
Kuthi imholi oziphethe kakuhle we-union wayengafuneka okokuba nge-16 aye phaya ayophakamisa imoya yabantu.
It is true, but I think one should also understand that the environment where a person was not like this hall, where there is air condition sitting like this. It was not. It was a different environment at hall.
Mandivume apho kodwa ke ndichaze okokuba le ndawo sasikuyo phaya imeko yayimanzonzo ingafani nala sikhona ngoku eholweni apho kukhona i-aircon.
I wish if it was an environment cozy like this, I would say, whatever that I was doing was at my utmost best to stop the strike and to make people to realize that they have to return back to work.
sisifiso sami ngokuba xa sasinendawo embejembeje njengalena ngaloo mini ndazama ngayo yonke into inzame zami zokuba esi strike singaqhubekeli phambili siphele ngaloo mini.
And if I may be allowed by the commissioner, that if I can be showed any clip whereby there was any person except myself who dedicated his life to go and talk to those workers, I'll be happy that yes, I failed. All what I was saying was wrong.
Xa kungabakho apho kungavezwa khona noma yeyiphi clip okokuba kukhona na omnye umuntu owaye wenza njengoba ndandenzile anikeze ngempilo yakhe ukuyothetha naba bantu phaya ndizawuvuma okokuba hayi ke ndifailile kwinzame zami xa kukho omunye umuntu oyenza into egqithe le endayenza mina ngokunikezela ngempilo.
All what I was doing, that was utmost best.
Ndazama ukwenza yonke into esemandleni am ngekhono lam lonke.
So we agree that it was no occasion to sweep up emotions.
Siyavumelana nakokuba kwakungelona ixesha lokuba kuphakamiswe imimoya yabantu.
That was an occasion whereby we have to engage those workers.
Kwakulixesha lokuba sithethisane
You haven't
naba.
answered the question directly. You may have answered it indirectly, but you haven't answered directly. What Mr. Berger says, do you agree that on the morning of the 16th of August was not an occasion to sweep up emotions? That's the question. What's your answer to that?
Yes,
Thank you.
Umbuzo obuzwa
Thank you,
ngumhlekazi
Chair.
uBerger uthi kwakungelona ixesha lokuba kuyophakamiswa imimoya yabantu phaya uvumelana naye apho ewe.
Neither was it an occasion to do electioneering for AMCO membership. You agree?
Uyavuma ke nokuthi kwakungelona ithuba uyavuma nokuba kwakungelona ithuba lokuba uyofuna ubulungu phaya uyo organizer i-membership ye-AMCO.
it is correct.
Ewe.
Neither was it an occasion to pick a fight with NUM. You agree?
Kwakungelona ke nethuba lokuthi uyolwa nenum.
Yes.
Ewe.
Now, before we see what you did say to the workers, let me remind you that when you explained to the Commission what the gist of your message was, you said your address to the workers was, "Workers disperse, return to work." You remember that evidence?
Xa uthetha apha kwi-commission wathi wena into wafika wayithetha phaya okokuba mabahlukane aba bantu kubuyelwe empangelweni. Uyayikhumbula loo ntetho?
Yes.
Ewe.
Now, we had read this transcript very carefully, and I
Sayifunda
can
ke.
find no reference to that in the transcript.
Siye sayifunda ke sayijonga ngokunonophele le transcript ayikho intetho enjengaleyo evela kule transcript.
Your counsel referred you
Okumele.
to a passage of 009 exhibit on page 10,
Apha ku 009 page 10 okumele uthetha ngolu hlobo.
in that lower quarter of the second column. But after the chair had agreed with you the punctuation, we know that that's not you speaking. That is what you ascribe to a third party, to NUM. What we
Apa-
are saying is that workers should go back to work. If they do not go back to work, police must take control.
Apha akuthethi wena.
Lonman, I'm sorry. It's ascribed to Lonman, I'm sorry. So
Apo-
that's not your statement.
Akuso statement sakho esi sivele apha.
Now, don't you want to help both my learned friend and I, and show us where in this transcript you perform your mandate to ask the workers to put down their arms, to disperse, and to go back to work?
Awunawuzama usikhombisa wena ke kule transcript apho wenza khona lento wawuthunyiwe ukwenza ezi zinto ezintathu. Ucela abaqhankqalazi babeke izixhobo phansi basuke apha entabeni baphindele engomeni.
I might not be able to point it there. Let me assist you and your learned colleague.
Mandincede ke wena noxa wakho ngalendlela andinako ukuba ndiyikhombe apha.
I myself, Joseph Matunjwa, I was on that mountain.
Mna ngokwami uJoseph Mathunjwa ndimi ndandipha entabeni.
I've done everything that I could.
Yenze yonke into endandinokhona ukuyenza.
I even referred that this matter can be taken within the labor framework dispute resolutions.
Ndaze ndathi kubo lento ingathathwa iyiswe kumasebe ajongene nezikhalazo
Leave
zabasebenzi.
this area in order, if there is a dispute, it can be declared accordingly and be referred to CCMA. If you embark on a protected strike,
Ndathi kubo masuke apha entabeni lento izawuthatha iyiswe kulawo masebe ingahle ijongiswe nakwa CCMA xa kukho istrike esisemthethweni.
I even made many examples as you were present 2 days ago and even yesterday
Ndenza
of a
nezibonelo
ram.
ezininzi ke njengoba bukhona apha izolo apho ndithethe khona ngeram.
Therefore, it will be difficult if you pinpoint only one section of what I've said.
Kuba nzima ke xa olatha indawo eyodwa apho ndithetha khona.
And not look at a bigger picture of
Ungajongi.
what were my endeavors.
Yonke into zonke inzame zam.
So I did tell the people that they must leave Kopi.
Ndayenza ke lo ngxelo ndibaxela babantu bam mabasuke apha entabeni.
And I even mentioned that there are scripts that are not shown here.
Njengoba nditshilo kukho ingxenye ezithize zentetho yam phaya ezingaveli apha.
As I reminded the commissioner that I've been to the Kopi twice.
Njengoba ndiyixelele iCommission lokuba ndiye kabini phaya entabeni.
Matunjwa, I'm probing your credibility. Your problem is a much more stark one than trying to refer to a second visit or possible recordings which we haven't seen. I accept that when you go to the copy on the first occasion on the 16th, you record, and what you record is what you said. That I accept.
Ndiyayimkela Mathunjwa into kokuba xa uya phaya nge-16 kusasa kwarekhodwa loo nto wayithetha phaya yiyo le rekhodiwe.
And I put to you that when you told the commission that you told the workers on that occasion that they must disperse and return to work, that's false.
Beka
You
kuwe ke
didn't say
Mathunjwa.
that to them.
Ukuthi xa usithi wena ngaloo mini wabaxelela abasebenzi ukuba mabahlukane apho babuyele emsebenzini bubuxoki obo.
That's not correct what you are saying.
Ayiyonyani le nto uyithethayo.
In fact, when Lonman is quoted as having said that, you're critical of that statement. Let's read together again. Exhibit
Masifundeke.
009,
Apha ku-009
Page
apho
10.
ilonmin ithi yona yathi ku-page 10.
you quote my client there. And my client, you say, had said, what we are saying is that workers should go back to work. If they do not go back to work, police must take control. And your comment is, do not rush to answer. Do not rush to answer. What did you mean by
Apho
that?
wathi wena uthetha ngalo ndimmele ulonmin uthi ulonmin uthi mababuye emsebenzini xa bangabuye emsebenzini amaphoyisa azawuthatha izinyathelo ezifanele wathi kubo ningangxami ukuphendula ubuchaza ntoni ngaloo nto.
It's because the workers were showing displeasure on that message.
Xa ndibanikeza loo myalezo abasebenzi bakhombisa ukungayivuyeli loo nto.
And then you accused Lonman of playing politics in asking the workers to go back to work. What did you mean by that?
Apha uthi abakwalonmin badlala ipolitics ngokucela abasebenzi babo ukuba baphinde empangelweni ubuchaza ukuthini ngaloo ntetho.
Please refer me to your statement.
Let me read it to you, 6 lines from the foot on that page. Page 10. Comrade, this is politics. This is the politics that are used by the employer to have a bloodshed.
Uthi apha comrades indlela yepolitiki le indlela esetshenziswa kwipolitiki apho kuzawubakho uphalalo legazi.
Yes, I meant that your client has reneged from its commitment of the previous night.
Apha bendithi ke mna abawubamela abalonmini sebaphendukile kwisigqibo ebesenziwe.
No, we'll come to that. That's not what you
Phezu.
mean at all.
That's
What
me,
you-
I was-
but let me just finish. What you
Sizawuza-
refer to here as politics is a request by Lonman to the workers to go back to work. And you make this peculiar statement to say, do not rush to answer, comrade, this is politics. This is the politics that are used by the employer to have a bloodshed. Now, it's nonsense, but I want to know, why do you say it?
Into endifuna ukuyazi ke uthi le ntetho lena intetho engavakali nje. Buzo nje ukuthi yintoni wathetha into enjengaleyo.
Is because the employer has reneged from its commitment.
Ndandisitsho kokuba umqashi wayesephendukile kule nto wayevumelene ngayo phezolo.
You were asked yesterday in closing whether this tragedy could have been avoided. I put to you that this tragedy could have been avoided by Mr. Matundra on the noon of the 16th of August at the copy, if he hadn't been so inflammatory and so derogatory of NUM in talking to the workers.
Mandibeke ngolhlobo ke izolo uyawabuza kokuba bekungenzeka yini ukuba singenzeki esi sehlakalo besingavinjwa uthi kuwe ewe besingavinjwa kuba senzakala xa umathunjwa engeyanga phaya wafika wathetha lamazwi ahabaxa ngenum kuba qhankqalazi apho.
I'm disputing that. I'm still maintaining that this massacre could have been avoided if your client never engaged the workers outside the bargaining structure, and if your client hasn't reneged into its commitment of the night of the 15th of August 2012.
Bingavikelwa lento kokuba ingenzeki ndibeka kuwe okokuba lo ummele akazange enze athethe nabasebenzi ngaphandle kwe-unions ezibamele i-structure ezikhona nokuthi angazange aphenduke kwisivumelwano wabesenzile phezolo nge-15.
Mr. Matundra, let us look at what you did say to the workers in order to form a view of whether the submission I want to make has substance. 009 is the exhibit, the very
Jonge.
first page of that, the cover page.
Masijonge apha Mathunjwa kwi-exhibit 009 ngoba ndizawuthi kuwe besingavimbeke sehlakalo xa ungathethanga njengoba uthethile apha.
Did I understand your evidence yesterday in answer to my learned friend Mr. Semenya that you heard this reference to we will finish them, referring to the police, and that they must leave immediately, a police officer from the homelands, that you heard that, but you did not correct the workers and tell them that they shouldn't speak like that after you heard those statements. Is that correct?
Uthe uwayiva le ntetho ivela apha kubaqhankqalazi besithi la mapolisa ikakhulu lawa avela phaya kula macala kowethu mawahambe ngelo xesha xa njalo azawugqitshwa phaya ndiyawugqiba ngawo ngalowo mina awuzange uthethe nabo aba bantu hayi mawethu makungabi intetho enjengaleyo.
I've said yesterday specifically to the person who was talking, and I further said the police were around because those workers were using the hailer.
Ndithe xa ndiphendula izolo ndathi ndathetha nalo mntu wayethetha loo nto namapolisa abekhona apho kuthethwa ngelawutheyila eyiva le ntetho yalo mntu.
And on page 1, at the foot of the page, who is that speaker who sang the song about killing NUM? Is that Mr. Dumisani?
Apha ngasekugqibeleni ke kukho uculayo phaya ubetha igwijo elithi siyayizonda inum sakuyibulala kanjani. Ngubani lo thetha apha nguDumisani?
That's true.
Ewe nguDumisani.
Now, you tell us that you spoke to him afterwards. What I want to ask you is something else. Why didn't you stop him there and say to him, we can't inflame the the masses here. We must subdue the emotion. You can't sing this on the morning of the 18th at the copy, 16th at the copy.
Uthi wathetha naye emva kwexesha ndiyakuva apho kodwa imbuzo ukuba yintoni ungamxelanga ngelo xesha ukuba hey mfondini akwazi ucula ngale ndlela singaphakamisa imoya yabantu apha.
The point is, I did reprimand him.
No,
Into inyani kokuba ndathetha naye ngale nto.
no, that's not the point at all. The point is you reprimanded him too late. I want to know why you didn't stop him there and then. No good
Wathetha
to
naye.
reprimand him afterwards. Damage has been done.
Sekugqibe ixesha yintoni ungathethanga naye ngelo xesha apho esayithetha le ntetho.
It happened, but what I know, I did reprimand him.
Yenzeka loo nto kanjalo kodwa into ekhona kokuba ndathetha naye emva koko.
When did you reprimand him?
Kwakunini ke xa uthetha naye emva kwaba.
After we left that place,
Emva kokuba sesisukile kuloo ndawo.
Thank you.
And then we know you made the statement on page 9 that the killing of people started on Friday. Now, Mr. Mutundra, that's highly inflammatory.
Waveza intetho yokokuba kuye kwabulawa abantu ngolwesihlanu naloo ntetho angithi iphakamise imoya yabantu.
We had agreed earlier this morning that you shouldn't have been inflammatory on that occasion. So I want to ask you why did you say these things on the morning of the 16th?
Sivumelene kwakusasa apha kokuba ubengenaso isidingo sokuba uye phaya uthethe intetho ezinjengalezo ezirhabaqeza uphakamisa imoya yabantu. Yintoni ngoku wayuthetha ngolu hlobo phaya?
as you'll recall, I apologized before the commissioner as per your request.
Xa ukhumbula ndiye ndacela uxolo apha kwi-commission. Ndicela ngokuba mandixolise.
No, that's
That
about the...
NUM
Sorry.
has killed the people.
Sorry.
Xa ndithi NUM yabulala abantu, ndiye ndaxolisa apho.
You apologized to NUM of having made false statement. That I understand. My question is a different one. You and I had agreed earlier today that this was not an occasion to inflame emotions. Now, I
Andithi
ask you,
siyavumelana.
why do you accuse a fellow trade union of having killed people, I interpose falsely, and inflame them in that way? Why do you do it?
Umbuzo yilona ke ngoku kokuba sivumelene kwakusasa nje kokuba kwakungekho sidingo sokuba wenze loo nto. Umbuzo ukuthi yintoni waya phaya waxelela abantu ngokubulawa kwabanye i-union ekuyinto eyayiphakamisa imoya yabantu.
You will recall that I was confirming what the strikers has told me in the Inyala on the 15th, on the night of the 15th. that
Apho
they were killed by NUM. And in the very same morning, they did mention again that.
Ndaxelela ngoxa bamphakathi kwinyala phaya kokuba aba bantu babulewe inum. Nakusasa xa siphaya bayitsho loo nto ndikhona.
I'm still looking at what you're saying at this meeting in order to argue at the end of the day that what you say is not only highly inflammatory, but your tone of voice is highly inflammatory. But that we've heard. Can I ask you to look at page 11 again?
Jonge apha ku page 11 ndibeka kuwe ke ukuba ilizwi lakho lali phakeme gqitha.
Which one of 009?
Of 009, yes, 11.
Page 11 ku 009 uthi nelizwi lakho lali phakeme kukhombisa kokuba
Get
hayi.
there. Are you moving away from the inflammatory point? Because you
No,
put,
I'm still on the
you
inflammatory.
put to him that what he said was inflammatory.
Yes.
And I don't know that he had an opportunity to answer the
I'm
the
sorry.
suggestion.
I
I think
should
in
have
fairness, you should give him a chance before we move on to page 11.
Absolutely. Mr. Mutundra, I put to you that your speech was inflammatory on this occasion, Exhibit 009. What do you say to that?
No, it was not inflammatory.
Uthi speech sakhe sasingekho ngolo hlobo njengoba esitsho.
Really, just before we take the tea end here, but because I'm still going to deal with the inflammatory on a lighter note, As I understand you, you are late on the morning of Thursday, the 16th of August, because you have to drive in from Witbank.
Ve usithi waba late nyana ngomhla ka-16 ngoba wawusuka phaya emalahleni eWitbank.
Not only that, and also
Hayi
that I
okokuphela.
left the mine very late in that particular evening.
Nokuthi ke phezolo kwakhona ndisuke apha emayini xesha selambile sekulate kakhulu.
Do you live at Witbank?
Uhlala eWitbank?
That's correct.
Ewe.
And you slept at home that night, I take it?
Walala ekhaya ngaloo mini?
That's correct.
Ewe.
Will you just read to us the middle of page 11, please? That's what I don't follow. You speaking,
Endingayivisisi ke kakuhle
and you
ile
say, my brothers and sisters,
ivela
my
apha
heart,
ku-page 11.
page 11, my brothers and sisters, my heart, I did not sleep, comrade. We slept in the car somewhere. It is because we always carry clothes, since we do not know where is the home of a man.
Wawuthi wena indoda ayiyazi okokuba kukuphi ekhaya. Comrades ngaloo mini silele emotweni sihamba siphethe impahla apha emotweni ngoba umuntu angazi okokuba uyawulalaphi.
No, I slept at home. This is more referring that we always carry clothes because we sleep anywhere as a trade unions, not referring that point that I slept in the car.
Hayi ngaloo mini ndalala ekhaya ndandingathi ngaloo mini ndilele ndandithetha apha nje njengabantu be-union ukuba sihamba yonke indawo sihamba siphethe impahla singazi ukuba siyawulalaphi.
Is this perhaps a convenient time for the teacher?
The adjournment. My colleague, Advocate Hemraj, wants to ask a question.
Phambi kokuba siye etiyeni, Advocate Hemraj, Commissioner ufuna ubuza lo mbuzo.
Mr. Matunjwa, you are referred to the transcript at page 1818. Would you look at that, please?
Sijonga apha kwi-transcript Mathunja ku-1818 le ayiphethe.
You have it? You see at line 8, it reads, the employer said he binds himself to agreeing that if things would go back to normal, that the employees would go back to work. The union that they select, he will be prepared to talk to. Can you just assist me? What does that mean? Exactly what is...
Azokuthini ke le ntetho Mathunja xa uthi umqeshi xa ezibophezela kule nto ayithethile na uzawuvuma ukuthetha ne-union aba baqhankqalazi abazikhethele yona uchaza ntoni apho?
It means their issues will be dealt within the structures of the collective agreement, one could say.
Ndandichaza okokuba izikhalazo zabo imfuno zabo zizawujongwa phantsi kwembandela yezistructure ezivumelekile.
Well, what does it mean about things going back to normal?
Apha uthi wena izinto zizawubuyela esiqhelweni.
It means returning back to work peacefully, as the management has said.
Ndandichaza okokuba kubuyelwe empangelweni ngoxolo, kubuyelwe emsebenzini ngoxolo njengoba bekusisicelo sikamqashi.
If you look over the page at 1820, page 1820 at line 16,
Xa ujonga ipage elandelayo 182
where it reads, to have allowed me to come and speak to you so that we come to an agreement as to how we can go back to work without the employer having to fire anyone. Can you assist and explain to me exactly what that means?
apha uthi banivumela banizothetha nani kude kungafiki apho umqeshi azawugxotha abanye benu.
Would you please repeat that one, ma'am?
If you look at line 16 on page 1820, are you there?
Which one? The one that says the same word in Sesotho.
No. Page 1820 of the transcript
Okay.
at line 16. What were you intending to convey there?
Ubuchaza ntoni ke apha?
Remember, the workers, they've already said that they want us to come the following day. Yes. So that was I was meaning, that we are coming back tomorrow as your what's name, as your request.
Yes, thank you.
Ndandithetha ngoba abasebenzi babevumela okokuba mandibuye ngemini elandelayo ndizothetha nabo.
I've got a point I'd like to ask you about that as well. You dealt with it earlier, but I'm afraid I didn't understand your answer. On page 1817, you talk
Page
about,
1817.
around about line 10, you say that you wanted the employer to give a guarantee. And the guarantee, you said at 13, 14, the guarantee, what worries our members, he would address together with their union. And he's talking about our members, means AMCU members.
Sorry?
And then he says, what, rather than you say, according to Mr. Mshlangu, at page 1818, you say, the employer should give the guarantee that he will talk to us as your union, and he said the people that you chose, so that you get those things that you are demanding. Now, what exactly does that mean? Does that not mean that you wanted a guarantee from the employer that he would be prepared to talk to AMCU as the union of the members to whom you had referred on page 1817?
Apho
misunderstanding.
No, that's not correct.
Asithi
No.
umqeshi azibophezele okokuba uzawuthetha nathi akatsho okokuba uyawuthetha nabo amkho njengabantu abamele aba bantu abakhethwe ngabo na.
I must tell you, I get the impression, and it may be a wrong impression. I mean, I've got to be, as my colleagues have, we've got to be fair. We will listen to all sides and try to understand what people are saying. And if we have impressions, we must put them to the people so they can deal with them. I must tell you, I get the impression that you were trying to use this situation to create a position where you would be given, at least on this specific issue, the opportunity or the right to negotiate on behalf of the MQ members, at least, who were on the copy, in regard to a matter in respect to which you didn't have negotiating rights, namely wages. Now, that's the impression I get. It's only a prima facie impression, first impression. It may be wrong, but I'm putting it to you so that if that impression is incorrect, you can put me right. But perhaps there was mention of tea. Perhaps it's an idea, if we take the tea adjournment now, think about the point I put to you, and I'll give you, because it's an important point, or may well be an important point, and I want to give you an opportunity to do yourself justice in giving me as full and comprehensive and persuasive an answer as you can.
Eka ngolu hlobo kumgcini sihlalo kuba
We'll
ngoba
take the short
sizawuya
term.
etiyeni nje makakacinge ukuba impendulo zakhe izawuthini.
All rise, Mr. sonke isiphakameni, sebefikile commissioner.
The commission resumes. Mr. Mutunja, are you still under oath? Are you now in a position to answer the question I asked you before the short adjournment was taken?
Yes.
Ukuze akwazi ukuphendula la mbuzo, bebuziwe phamba kuthathwe ikhefu mnumzana uMathunjwa.
I was not saying that AMCO wants to be a bargaining agent at Lonmin. Hence, we knew that we are not recognized for bargaining.
Uthi ke khangathi yena ufuni amkhu iyamkelwe njenge union ekwazi ukuxoxa ngoba abanawo amalungu ubulungu obuphelele kuba bangakwazi ukuthi baxoxe.
And I was not using the situation for that reason, as I've said.
Uthi ke bengasebenzisi lo thuba ukuba azophiwa ke lo thuba afumana ithuba lokwenza lonto leyo naye.
Anything else you want to say on the point?
No, I think that is it.
All right, thank you. Mr. Berger, I take it you want to continue with your
Thank you,
cross-examination.
Chair. Mr. Matunja, I'm dealing with the tone and content of your address on the 16th, and I'm putting to you that it was inflammatory. If you go to Exhibit 009, that's the transcript at page 3, it is not you speaking, it's one of the triad of people in your union, but just over half of page 3, the following is reported to be said. But comrade, what we get is oppression from the employer together with this union that is claimed to be big, that celebrates 30 years of oppression, you get nothing at the end. Now, do we understand it correctly? The speaker refers to NUM as this union that is claimed to be big.
I don't think that was me who was speaking there.
No, I've said it's not you, it's one of your officials. You listen to it, you stand next to him.
Repeat your question.
My question is the reference to NUM as the big union who is oppressing the people for 30 years?
I don't see here saying NUM, but he's saying the union with 30 years.
Who was referred to? Who was being referred to? Which union, do you think? 3 guesses.
I won't guess. I think the person who was speaking will be in a better position to say whose union was he referring to.
Njengokuba ke ngoku apha wakuthethiwe kuthiwa elinye iqabane lalihamba nomnumzana Mathunjwa lathi xa lithetha comrade njengoba bensenitshilo comrade ndathi kuni comrade ngokuba lapha kule ndawo akufunekanga uzisole kuba kaloku kulomnotho welizwe I'm sorry uthi kodwa comrade yes into esifumanayo ingcinezelo esifumana kumqashi edibene nale union ekuthiwa inkulu xa kuthethwayo celebrate 30 years ukucinezela iniopresile kungekho nto nifumanayo ekugqibeleni ngoko kuyabuza uba ke ngophi lo mbutho bekuthethwa ngawo lokuthiwa ugqiba iminyaka engama-30 uthi ke yena umnumzana uMathunjwa lo bethetha lo mazwi nguye ke oyawuchaza into yoba bebhekisa kubani ngalo mazwi na.
How did you understand this statement? To what union did you think he was referring?
Would you please, Honorable Commissioner, to repeat that question?
Mr. Berger put to you was a passage in the transcript at page 3 where one of your colleagues, Dumasani, was speaking, I think, and he said, what we get is oppression from the employer together with this union that's claimed to be big, that celebrates 30 years of oppressing you, and you get nothing at the end. Now, you were asked what union he was referring to, and you say, Mr. Berger must ask him. That if he goes in the witness box, presumably he will. But what I want to know is how did you understand what he said? You were there. What union did you think he was referring to?
I'm guessing when you look at the,
Asking you to guess, I'm asking you what you understood at the time, rightly or wrongly, in that particular context, what unit do you think he was referring to?
he was referring to NAM.
uthi umnumzana Mathunjwa mhlawumbe uDumisani ngokuthetha ngohlobo bebhekisa kwiNUM.
And you heard it when he said it.
Yes, I was present there.
Thina umnumzana Mathunjwa umvile ngobethelwa amazwi ngoba naye bekhona apho.
It was inflammatory. You agree?
No.
You don't agree?
Takangqinelani ke into ba lo mazwi bingamazwi aphembelelayo okanye afunzayo.
Those words were not coming from me.
That's not what I'm asking. We know it didn't come from you. I'm putting to you that this is inflammatory speech. And I want your comment on that, please.
If you talk of oppression, it's not inflammatory.
Xa kuthiwa kuye kumnumzana Mathunjwa bala mazwi ngamazwi afunzayo okanye axhokonxayo, uthi ke na xa uthetha ngencinezelo, incinezelo ucinezelo ayinto amazwi okuphembelela ngo.
Must the Commission understand that you associated yourself with this sentiment?
Stand.
Beg your pardon?
I don't understand what you're saying.
Let me put it differently.
Yes.
Must the Commission then understand that you agreed with what the Speaker had said?
I heard what the speaker said.
I'm not asking whether you heard it. We've established that you heard it. Want to know whether you agreed with it.
On which context? I don't understand really that question. Maybe can be put it in a different way. I really don't understand your question.
Uthi akawuqondi ke lo mbuzo bungabekwa ngenye indlela umnumzana Mathunjwa.
Don't you understand about it?
He said, I'm agreeing with the statement. Then what I've said, he's the person who was saying.
Uthi xa kuthiwa yena uvumelana nalanto bithethwa, uthi ngoba bingela muntu lebethetha lo mazwi.
Mr. Matun,
Put it to you differently. I want to understand your answer. Let's turn it around. Let's assume two people from NUM come and speak to the people, two of them. And one of them, they're standing next to each other. They're both from NUM. And the first NUM speaker says, AMCU, they are a bad union. And the man next to him, the other NUM member, doesn't say he doesn't agree, he doesn't say anything. Would the ordinary people who hear what's being said by the first man think that the second man, because he remains silent and he's also from NUM, agrees with what the first man has said?
I think you might think that he concur with what he's saying.
Xa kwenza umzekelo ke into babekunobiza abantu ababini beNUM omnye ke athethe athi ngicimba iAMCU ayilunganga. Xa lo uthuleyo yena engathethiyo ethule loo nto ithetha into yobana ungqina nalona uthethana xa ethe cwaka uthi ke yena ucinga loo nto leyo into yoba lo uthuleyo ungaphenduli yena ubonisa uba nyhani loo nto uba ungqinana le nto ithethwa ngulo ugqiba ukuthetha.
so you agreed, standing next to the Speaker, when the Speaker said, but comrade, what we get is oppression from the employer, together with this union that is claimed to be big, that celebrates 30 years of oppression, you get nothing at the end. You associated yourself as president of AMCO with that statement, Mr. Mathunjwa.
Question, Mr. Berger.
Whether he associated himself with that statement, Chair.
No.
Uthi yena abi loo nto bingathethi into yokuba ubengqinelana nala mazwi bethethwa ngulo muntu bethetha ngelo xesha eso sithethi.
What was wrong with that statement? What did you disagree with?
I don't associate with the statement what he was saying. That's what I'm saying. I'm not associating myself with what he was saying.
What do you disassociate yourself with in that statement? It's a short one, 5 lines. Read it, take your time, and then you tell us where you differ, because my next question is, why didn't you say so at the copy? But let's do them one by one.
Okay?
Do you differ from the speaker there, and do you say there is no oppression by the employer, by Lonmin? Is that your stance?
There is no?
No oppression by Lonmin of workers. Is that your stance? It's not a difficult question. You take a long time to answer that.
Kuthiwa ke ngoku ayimpendulo endile.
Yes.
Ayizothatha ixesha ukuthi makaphendule.
You disassociate yourself from that statement that Lonmin oppresses its workers.
Yes.
Uthi ke yena xa kwenziwa intetho yokubana iLonmin icinezela abasebenzi yena akazibandakanye nentetho enjalo, akangqinelani nayo ngamanye amazwi.
And do you, as president of AMCO, also disassociate yourself with the statement that NUM has for 30 years oppressed the workers? Do you disassociate yourself with that statement?
Yes.
Uthi nale ntetho ke xa kuthiwa iNUM for iminyaka engamashumi amathathu icinezela abasebenzi yena akazibandakanye naloo ntetho okanye akangqinelani naloo ntetho leyo.
Then on page 11, we have that portion where you are talking. And I'm still putting to you that this is inflammatory and that you are inflaming the workers on that occasion. On page 11, may I read to you again 4 lines from the top for your comment on what I put to you?
Uzamfundela kakhona apha ku page number 11 kuphepha leshumi elinanye into yokuba bethetha amazwi afunza okanye axhokonxa okanye aphembelela abantu.
Read it to you earlier today, but let me read it again. These men discussed and agreed in the boardroom that they should come because NUM saw that it has no control, because you told Zakwana that you were no longer his members because of what he has done by shooting you on Friday. Something like this, comrade, needs strategy that is more than the knowledge of a person. We want a strategy from heaven and from the ancestors to reach us and talk and see how far we can go, because the employer wants to run away from your demands and hide with the fact that employees were violent. That is why they were killed. NUM would get an opportunity to go back to the platform to continue oppressing the black nation. Power on that note.
Ifundeka ngolu hlobo ke ngoku ngoba le itolikiweyo ithethwayo njengoba lamadoda engezanga into ethethwe eboardroom leyo yagqibelelo ngoba uNUM uthi akasenayo ulawulo sekabona ngoba senimtshele uzokwana ukuthi nina anisezona izimember zakhe ngale meko ayenzileyo kuba anidubule ngolwesihlanu. Into enjena ke comrade ifuna ubuchule obudlula ukuqonda komuntu. Sifuna ubuchule uvele emazulwini nakwezinyanya ukuthi mazifinyelele kuthi bese siyithethisana ukuthi ukuba indlela enjani singafinyelela kuyona ngoba umqashi ufuna ukubalekela izimfuno zenu bese abaleka ngegama lokuba abasebenzi bebanodlame. Yingakho babulewe bese ke uNUM uyakwazi ukubuyela eqongeni aqhubeke nokucindezela isizwe simnyama sabasebenzi amandla kuleyo ndawo.
Mr. Matunjwa, this is highly inflammatory speech. Do you accept that?
Not.
Akavumelani ke ngoku yena umnumzana uMathunjwa ba le ntetho igqibo kwenziwa pha yephembelelayo.
Why do you say to the workers that NUM is oppressing the black nation? We've just heard you don't believe that. Why do you give this falsehood to the workers on that morning?
Yeah, but you have to start from the top.
I did
of-
start
yes.
from the top.
So I'm saying there is not inflammatory.
Uthi kumnumzana uMathunjwa xa iphendula xa ufunda uqala ujonga pha phezulu xa isithi ke yena iNUM icinezela abantu ayintetho leyo efunzayo okanye exhokonqa abantu.
And also my statement on the day, if you are referring on the 16, on the very same 16, my statement never led to any person to be killed on the 16.
Uthi xa ujongile ke ngoku into ethayenzileyo ngomhla weshumi elinesithandathu zange ikhokhelele ekubhubheni nasekuswelekeni kwabantu.
We'll make submissions on that, Mr. Matunjwa, at the end of the inquiry. But let me go back to my question. My question is a simple one. You've just told us that you do not subscribe to the view that NUM oppresses the people. Why do you tell the workers at the Kopi on the 16th that NUM would get an opportunity to go back to the platform to continue oppressing the black nation? You don't believe that. Why do you say that to the workers?
That was in that point in time.
Xa ibuza into yoba ke ngokutheni xa sithi yena inumi izawubuyela eqongeni iqhubeke nokucinezela abantu kutheni ethi into enjalo xa engakholelwa into yoba inumi icinezela abantu uthi xa iphendula ke yena yinto ke eyenzeke ngelaa xesha.
Now, I want to go to an next subject, and it was anticipated by the chair before tea, but I've unfortunately got a lot of questions on that, and it is this. I want to put to you that you saw the unrest between the 9th and the 16th of August of this year as an opportunity to lever AMCO into a bargaining position at Lonmin.
Kuthiwa ke kuMnumzana uMathunjwa wathi xa ebona ke ngoku izidubedube besenzeka kusuka ngomhla we-9 uyotsho ngo-16 uye wabona into yoba uzosebenzisa elaa thuba into yokubana i-AMCO ikwazi ufumana ithuba lokuba iyokwazi ukuxoxa nayo kwibhunga apho kuxoxwa khona.
And as I understand your answer after tea, you deny that.
Qona nempendulo yakhe emva kwethi into yoba uyayikhanyela loo nto leyo.
Yes,
Correct?
No, you're not correct. Remember, I was invited by your client on the 13th to be in those premises. Your client phoned me and said he needs my intervention. So when I intervene, now I'm blamed as if I was using the circumstances as an opportunistic opportunity for AMCO to gain, recognition for bargaining.
Uthi ke ngoku ukhumbule into yobana ke ngoku ngumqeshi lo wandifonelela ngomhla we-13 baxela ukuba mandingenelele ngoku xana ke ngoku ndingenelela sekutyholwa mna ngoku ibe ngathi ndim lo besebenzise lo thuba le nto yoba ndizofumana amalungelo lokwazi into yoba mandihamba ndiyoxoxa ngeento ezibhekiselele kwimivuzo yabantu.
All what I was doing was to assist.
Uthi into ebendiyenza ke mna into ebendiyenza ibikukunceda.
Let's look at the facts. You have a look at your statement NN, paragraph 8. Does paragraph 8 and 9, I'm not going to read it, but that explains the position of AMCO as a trade union at Lonmin in August of that year. You tell us what the position is, the contractual position.
Yes, paragraph.
8 and 9. You have confirmed it. I'm just really trying to explore the chronology. In fact, can I hand up as the next exhibit the addendum to the Limited Organizational Rights Agreement that was concluded between AMCO and Lonmin in May of this year? If I may just get the next exhibit number, please.
I think it's already handed in as 0010.
I'm indebted to the
Addendum to the
chair.
Category 3 to Category 9 substantive wage agreement between, etc., between Lonmin and NUM, UASA, Solidarity,
No.
AMCO.
No. I'm referring to an agreement between Lonmin and AMCO. It's an addendum to an existing agreement. The existing agreement is somewhere in the paper, but for my purposes, the addendum is more important because that expands the rights of AMCO.
Yes, thank you. So I'm sorry, I was wrong.
It's 0012.
Mr. Mathunjwa, 0012 is this agreement of May 2012. You know the agreement.
Yes.
Uthi ke uyasazi isivumelana ke ngoku senziwa ngoMeyi ku-2012.
Clause 2.2. Do you have that?
Uthi unayo iphethe ngaphambi kwakhe.
As I understand it, Lonmin has three major mines. It's Western Platinum, Eastern Platinum, and Curie.
Yes,
Your union's strength is at Curie.
yes.
Tike ngoku apho anamalungu amaninzi khona kuseKari ngoba le uvumelano kakhulu belibhekiselele kupha eKari.
On page 5, we see under grievance procedure clause 9.1, the parties agree to follow the company's grievance procedure in order to resolve grievances at the earliest possible stage. AMCO is a party to this. Correct?
Yes.
Yavuma ke
9.2,
nokubana bazosebenzisa nendlela eyiyo umgaqo ofuneka ulandelwe xa besebenza ngezikhalazo.
spells out the disciplinary procedure. Correct?
That's correct.
Eyo enye ke yindlela yolwaluleko inkqubo yokwaluleka.
And in clause 10, we have a dispute procedure. Starting off with 10.1, the dispute shall firstly be referred in writing by the unions to the company or vice versa. Correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Kubekiwe kakhona umgaqo nkqubo okanye indlela ezosetyenziswa xa kuxoxwayo into yokuba i-union yiyo ezawubhalela umqeshi okanye umqeshi ibe nguye ezobhalela i-union.
And we know from clause 8 that AMCO becomes part of a consultative forum and you can negotiate on certain issues such as 831, production matters, operational matters, working in arrangements. Correct? Now, in your statement, NN, in paragraph 12, you deal with the events leading up to the 10th of August 2012. And in paragraph 12, you tell us that on the 20th of July 2012, you received a phone call from Mr. Barnett Mokoena. And he advised you that he had heard a rumor that workers at Lonmin had certain grievances. Correct?
Yes.
Uyatsho kwi-statement sakhe into yoba ngomhla we-20 kaJulayi ke imveki ezintathu phambi uba uqhankqalazo luqale watsalelwa umnxeba ngumnumzana uBernard Mokoena mxelela into yokubana uve amarhe into yokuba abasebenzi ngathi bafuna ukwenza uqhankqalazo okanye befuna ukwenza uqhankqalazo.
Now, if those grievances related to wages, if the workers wanted more money, AMCO couldn't assist because you didn't have a power to negotiate wages.
That's correct.
Uyavuma kana mnumzana Mathunji into yoba ukuba ke ngoku ezo zikhalazo bezibhekiselele kwiinto zemivuzo yabantu kungafunekanga ukuthi uxelele bona ngoba i-AMCO ngela xesha bingenalungelo okanye igunya lokuba ikwazi ukuxoxa ngemiba yemivuzo.
Paragraph 13, you say, I said to Mr. Mokoena that when he receives these demands, he should call a meeting of all the stakeholders, being NUM, AMCO, Solidarity, and UASA, so that the matter could be discussed. But AMCO wouldn't have a right to sit in on that negotiation.
That is correct.
Uthi ke yena wathi kumnumzana Mokoena bazothi xa befumene bathi xa befumane ke ngoku ezo mfuno zabantu babize intlanganiso apho babandekanyekayo abaphathi beentlanganiso babekhona abafana ne-NUM, i-AMCO, ne-Solidarity, ne-United Association of South Africa ibiza UASA. Uthi ke nomnumzana uBerger Senior Counsel into yoba i-AMCO yona bingenakwazi ukuthi ibe lapho ngoba ayinamagunya ukuba ikwazi ukuvela ixoxele abantu ngemiba yemivuzo. Uyavumelana naye umnumzana Mathunji?
In fact, what do you think would have happened if there was a wage negotiation with these unions with accreditation and AMCO was invited into the meeting? What would the other unions have done?
The normal process, they will raise a concern.
Uthi ke ukuba i-AMCO bikhona emveni bakubizwe mhlawumbi ezinye intlanganiso ezi abanye bebezawubonisa ke ukungaxoli kwabo.
And we are also told in your statement that you had the telephone call on the 10th of August. That you deal with in your statement NN from page 15 and following. And in paragraph 19 of your statement, you said, I also said to Mr. Mokoena that once the memorandum had been received, management should call a meeting with all the unions to discuss the matter. Did you, by referring to all the unions, include AMCO or exclude AMCO?
including AMCO.
tike ngoba ethetha ngayo yonke imibutho yomanyano yabasebenzi ne-AMCO beyifaka kunye naye apha ebhekisana kwe-AMCO.
And may we assume that if the other unions attended a meeting on wages and AMCO tried to attend, that they would have raised a concern and contended that that was not part of the collective bargaining process?
That is correct.
Vumelana mnumzana uMathunjwa uba i-AMCO yayiyile kuloo ntlanganiso abanye ke babezawubonisa into yoba abaxolanga ngoba akulandelwa inkqubo ifanelekileyo yokuxoxa ngemiba yemivuzo.
When the SAFM interview was held on the morning of the 15th of August, you raised these two requests on the air. And if you have a look at Exhibit LL, which is a transcript of that, you raised that on pages 5 and 6. You see on page 5 from line 15, you can read it for yourself, we've read it before. You raise these two incidents, and over the page, at page 6, opposite line 8, you carry on saying, I then advised him, referring to Mr. Mokoena, I then advised him that upon receipt of the very same memorandum, make sure that you convene an urgent meeting with the stakeholders, as I proposed 2 weeks ago, which that meeting, it never took place. Make sure that you call the meeting in order to deal with that memorandum with whatever is in the memorandum. Now, he just couldn't call a meeting to which AMCO was a party. We've agreed that.
Yes, but you have to remember that the memorandum hasn't been served. We don't know what is the content of the memorandum.
Uthi ke nawube vuma into yobana bengenakwazi ukuba ithathe inxaxheba kuloo ntlanganiso i-AMCO kodwa ke bengayazi into yoba lo memorandum elo phepha lesikhalazo kubhalwe ntoni kulo na.
No, I make
But
a
I
different
fully-
point. Sorry. I make a different point. I say it is unrealistic to expect of Lonmin to call a meeting of stakeholders on these two occasions if one of the stakeholders is AMCO. The other stakeholders will not agree to that. And I thought we'd agreed that.
Yes, if you remember, you read a collective agreement which states the issues where AMCO can be involved.
Uthi nangona ke ngoku betshilo into yoba nyhani xa kuxoxwa ngemiba efana ebhekiselele kwimivuzo ayinawungena i-AMCO kuloo ntlanganiso kodwa ke kwenye imiba ebethe yachazwa apha ingakwazi ukuthi ibe yinxalenye yaloo ntlanganiso i-AMCO.
I agree if it was an issue only in the agreement, I mean on the memorandum that was talking about the bargaining issue, AMCO will be said no. But since even himself, he didn't know what were the issues as demand.
Mr. Matunjwa, everybody but you knew what the issue was. The issue was the workers wanted 12,500 a month. Even I knew that. I read the newspapers at the time. And AMCO do not have standing to debate that.
Kuthiwa ke mnumzana uMathunjwa besazi into yokubana yintoni le befuneka ixoxiwe ngoba naye usenior counsel umnumzana uBheka beyazi into yokubana naxa ifuna amaphepha kuyabonisa into yoba abantu bebefuna
have to-
i-12,500.
We don't have to speculate about a non-existent memorandum.
I'm not. The fact is, the memorandum was never served. We don't know what would be the content of the memorandum.
Uthi ke ayinto yobana wenza amaqashqashi bengayazi noba kuloo ncwadi yezikhalazo yintoni ebizawubhalwa kuloo ncwadi leyo.
But Mr. Matunjwa, you're persistent. You raised this again at the briefing session on the 15th, when the police plead with the unions to diffuse the situation. May I ask you to have a look at 004, that's the transcript of that meeting.
Kuthiwa ke ngomhla we-15 uphinde wayithetha le nto ngeli xesha kwakho intlanganiso
Page
kunye
21.
namapolisa.
of 004,
Kwakungeli xesha ke kwakuthiwa mabahambe bayodambisa lento yayisenzeka phaya.
may also be page 661 or 561, but I think 21 is the better number.
Mr. Berger, what exhibit are you referring to? I'm sorry, I missed that.
004, Commissioner.
Thank you.
That's
The document had a general request from parties to come together. What page?
page, it should be 21. It's typed page 15 with me, but I think we work off different transcripts. But I'm told it should be page 21 of the official 004.
Page 21 begins, that was our bottom line. So what are the opening words on the page you're referring
My
to?
page opening line, Mr. Matunjwa, pointing fingers saying, no, is this union. But it may also be at 21, that was our intention, that was our bottom line, Mr. Matunjwa speaking.
Page 13, there's a reference to Amku Joseph, which is presumably a reference to Mr. Matunjwa. The transcribers, for some strange reason, referred to Num President, but when they referred to Mr. Matunjwa, they referred to him simply as Amku Joseph. It's an inconsistency which I find rather strange, but never mind. So, but that's where Mr. Matunjwa's speech, as it were, begins, and then it goes all the way through, and on page 21, he's still speaking.
No, this is not a speech.
Well,
This
no,
is
no,
the briefing session,
No,
Chair.
he's speaking at the briefing session.
Oh, I see, sorry, yes.
Sorry, his remarks or statement or whatever,
Yes.
at the briefing session. But anyway, we've now found the passage. That's the passage you refer to.
I'd like to refer to the passage opposite my, I think this thing has gone into your face, you management, as I was still emphasizing on air that you need to blame yourself 110%.
Uthi ke ngoku befuna kulaa ndawo bethi
It's a
kuyo.
short passage. Perhaps I can read it to the witness. He has it in front of him.
I found it. I think this thing has gone into your face is line 9.
I must really
And then-
apologize for the pagination.
It's all right,
So
okay.
sorry.
Well, anyway, we sorted that now. Line 9 begins, I think this thing has gone into your face, you management,
Yes.
as I was still emphasizing on air.
What official page is that,
The
Chair?
official page 21,
21.
and the words, I think this thing has gone, are on line 9.
Thank you. I'm indebted to you. Mr. Matunja, I'm still exploring your wish to get a chair at the bargaining table. We're now at the briefing session with the generals, and you say the following: I think this thing has gone into your face, you management, as I was still emphasizing on air that you need to blame yourself 110% with the situation at Lonman. I'm not mincing my word. If you did take my proposal 2 weeks ago, if you did respond to my letter a week ago, if you did not entertain those delegation of RDOs, I do not think we will be sitting here talking the loss of life. You remember that?
Yes, I do remember it.
Uthi uyakhumbula ke lo mazwi ngoba isithi uthi lento ndicinga uba ke ngoku ibuyele ebusweni beni nabaphathi njengoba benigxininisa ke nakunomathotholo into yokuba nina bafuneka bagxekwe 110% ngale meko iselonmini. Uthando waxubi amazwi am ndiye ndacebisa kwiveki ezimbini edlulileyo ukuba beniphendulile kuleta yam kwiveki edlulileyo nimamela i-RDOs andicingi into yobana ngebe khona abantu ababethe baphulukana nobomi babo. Uyayikhumbula loo nto Mnumzana Mathunja.
You'll remember it's also on this occasion that Mr. Barnard Mokoena said, we can only work in the structures. We will not talk to an unprotected strike filled with workers. You remember that?
That's correct.
Uthi uyakhumbula naxa esithi umnumzana Bernard Mkwena intoba bazosebenza ke ngokwemigaqo efuneke ilandeliswe ubona soze babe nento kwenza noqhankqalazo
Chair,
olungakho semthethweni.
those words don't appear in this transcript.
Now, my learned friend should understand that I'm paraphrasing.
I don't think that's a correct paraphrasing either.
Uthi ke noba uyibeka ngamanye amazwi akaqonda uba
Are you
uthetha
giving her your
kakuhle.
thoughts, Ms. Barnes, or are you objecting?
Yes, it is an objection, Chair. Mr. Mkwena does not say in the transcript we
alright.
will not negotiate other than outside these, other than
Mr.
within the
Berger, I
structures.
think it'd be better if you use the ipsissima verba of the witness in the document. Then
Yes, let me go the wrong way around. Page 28. We've read it before, 28 of this same exhibit. Page, exhibit 004. This is what Mr. Mkwena says. We are willing to engage our employees within the structures that are known in a very safe environment where there are no weapons, not a mountain. So we are willing to meet our employees through their structures, through their leaders, to discuss any issue, not when they are armed, not when they are actually outside the Lonman property. I don't have to read further. You remember he had said that.
That's correct.
Uthi ke uyayikhumbula nto ayithethile umnumzana Mkwena.
Then you go to the copy on the afternoon of the 15th, and you speak to the workers, and we've read this morning what you told the workers, and you've also told us what the workers told you. And why I want to remind you of that is I want to put to you that you're negotiating a position where the workers want to talk to AMCO. They don't want to talk wages to NUM. And that's what you're facilitating. Now let me
Come
put
again? I didn't hear you well.
the workers, on the occasion of you speaking to them at the copy on the 15th, when it gets dark and they say, come back the next morning. What I'm putting to you is, you were trying to position AMCO in a position to negotiate the 12,500.
That's wrong.
Well, let me
Uthi
put to
xa
you
kuthiwa
what
ke
they say.
ngoku xa kuthiwa ke ngoku yena befuna ibe amkho yiyo ibe yiyo ibonakala izawuthetha nomqeshi nge-12,500 uyikhaba ngawumane leyo umnumzana uMathunjwa.
The worker said to you words to the effect, and I'm reading from my notes, we do not want to see Zokwana here together with his police. You remember that?
Yes. Uthi batsha abasebenzi ke into kubana bafuna umbona uzokwana kunye nala mapolisa.
They say to you, we want people who come from AMCO. Come back tomorrow and we talk to them. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do remember that.
Uyakhumbula ke into basifuna uthetha neAMCO izani ngomso into basithetheni.
They say to you, Zokwana is only filling up his stomach. Come back tomorrow, we will listen to what you can say. You remember that?
Yes.
Uthi uyakhumbula noba kwabathi abantu uzokwana ufuna ugcwalisa nje ithumbu lakhe yena uyiza ngomso uve basizawuthini na.
And I should think it continues somewhere where it says to communicate what the employer has said.
Yes, indeed.
Yes.
That's the very point I make. AMCO is now becoming the spokesperson for the workers at the copy to negotiate with Lonman.
You are wrong. We were there, sent by the management to go to the copy, including the SAPS, to talk to the workers. For us, we were just the messengers. If they give us the message to take it back, I was no point to say, no, you are wrong what we are saying. Because they were not saying negotiate. They were saying this is what you need to take it back.
Uthi ke nabo bebethunywe ngabaphathi bekufuneka behambe namapolisa loo nto bingathethi into yokuba ingathi uzawuba sisithethi ke wathethe nelonmeni ngezinto ezibhekisele kwimivuzo yabantu uchacha.
Which I reported in the presence of management, in the presence of the generals, and there was no objection to that feedback.
Uthi ke kuye wabanika ingxelo bona ugeneral kunye nabaphathi khange ke bayiphike okanye bangayamkeli loo nto leyo.
And again, coming to the structures of bargaining, if you read to my letter of the 10th, I think it's paragraph 2, bulletin 2, it says clearly, if I may read for the commission, it says, any employee who forms part of this gathering, we believe belongs to an A union, means it does have a union where it belongs, that particular employees, which is recognized by management and its branch structures. For unionized employees, there are management structures dealing with grievances. Hence, if there are any issues of concern, should be communicated via such structures.
Uyachaza ke
I was
into yokubana-
emphasizing, in the actual fact, Mr. Barnard is emphasizing what I told him, I mean on the 10th, through this letter.
Kuthi ngale ncwadi umnumzana ke uBernard begxinisela into ayithethile nge-10 into yokuba abantu ke ngoku abamelwe zi-union funeke bona bancedwe yi-union kodwa ababengenazo union kodwa bakwazi ukuthi basebenzise indlela yokuba badibane kunye nabaphathi xa benezikhalazo.
Now, I'm negotiating or discussing a different subject with you. I'm discussing the positioning of AMCO during that period in the debate between the copy people and management. What did you have to report back to the copy on the morning of the 16th? On what did you have to report back to them?
The morning of the 16th,
Yes,
what I was supposed to report from the
Yes.
copy.
correct.
One, we agreed on the 15th that I will report to the management to give me a feedback how where the workers should report when they return back to work. Two, to explain the commitment of management. That's what I was supposed to go and report the 16th.
Uthi ke ufuneka eyosingxelo ke nge-16 kwe abuyele into yokubana abaphathi bathini nendlela umqeshi bezibophelela ngayo nendlela ukuthi abantu abasebenzi babuyele ngayo emsebenzini.
You had to report on the induction process if they return to work.
Amongst of the things that I wanted and the management never objected to it.
Uthi enye yezinto ke kwakuthetha ngomba wokuba bazobuyela njani ngendlela iyo emsebenzini zange ke iphikeleyo okanye ichaseleyo umqeshi achase loo nto leyo.
That's not correct, Mr. Matunja. What you wanted to get from management is an undertaking that if the workers go back to work and there's going to be a discussion on wages, you want to be part of the discussion.
That is your opinion.
I beg your pardon?
That is your opinion.
No, I'm putting to you that as a fact.
That is not correct.
Uthi xa exelelwa ke into ba yena wayefuna uya phayana kwenzela into ba xa kuxoxwa naye athathe inxaxheba umnumzana uMathunjwa xa kuxoxwa ngemiba yemali ngoku uyayiphika leyo akavumelani nayo umnumzana uMathunjwa. Uthi ngumbono wakho lowo.
And you said to management on the morning of the 16th, don't be technical with me, meaning don't refer to me to bargaining structures. If these people get off the copy, I want a seat at the table.
Where is that? Can you give it to
Can
me?
I show you the exhibit? It's a new exhibit. It's a transcript of a discussion you had on the morning of the 16th. Would that be 0013?
It will be 0013.
Thank you,
If we
Chair.
get permission from Ms. Pillay, is that correct?
Unikwa ke incwadi apho wabonisa into ba naye xa ekuzothethwa ufuna ukuba naye ahlale abe yinxaxheba okanye athathe inxaxheba ekuxoxeni etafileni.
Sorry, what page would that be in Lonman's bundle?
Like 692.
Was it submitted?
Does it start at 692? Chair, I really start at 693. But
Haven't you got copies for your learned friends?
Never seen this before.
unfortunately not.
We're looking for it in the bundle, Chair, thank you.
If you found it, let us know so then he can carry on with his cross-examination. You found it now? Mr. Berger, Ms. Barnes has caught up. You can proceed with your cross-examination.
Idea you really? Thank you. Mr. Matunja, you have that document in front of you. It starts my page 693, Mr. Matunja. That is my plea to you. Do you have that page?
Document of the 15th.
Of the 16th of August. Says meeting conducted on morning of 16 August 2012, attended by Messrs. Matunjwa, Kwadi, Pega, and Dumisani.
Yes, I've got a copy, then I don't know where you are reading.
Good. Mine is type. Can I go to your type page 1? Do you have that?
Yes.
Let me read it with you about line 11. You speak. I want to be up with you and tell you straight the fact that what is happening, because we do not want to make each other fools here, just to achieve your own selfish interest in using AMCO or Guti to go and call the strike off, which was never called by us. Then at the end of the day, when we have to entertain the interest of those workers, then you turn around and say, no, 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 we have got a recognition agreement, and you must be reminded, Uguti, the NUM is not the majority at Lonmin. Then you speak in the vernacular. And I pick it up at line 22.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Chair. We do not find page 692.
692 doesn't matter. 692 is just the heading, meeting conducted on morning of 16 August. 693 is the passage from which Mr. Berger is quoting. It begins, Mr. Matunjwa, that is my plea to you, and therefore. You found that?
You?
You're now up with the game. So can Mr. Berger proceed? Right.
You, line 22, Mr. Matunjwa, you say technicality of which we are not a bargaining agent. And then line 29, prove now Uguti. Sorry, help me, what does Uguti mean? That. Oh, prove me, I'm told it means that. Prove now, Uguti, yes, you commit that you will not come with your technicalities. Once that strike is off, when we want to entertain you with those issues of those workers, then you come with the issues of saying, AMCO, you are not a bargaining agent. Now, what do you mean by that, Mr. Matunjwa? What did you mean by that?
Ngokufutshane ke ngokubhalwe into yokuba bona abafuni ukuthi basetyenziswe ingathi benziwa izidenge ekugqibeleni xa ukuthi into zilungile kuthiwe ke ngoku nina AMCU anenalo ilungelo lokuba maname niyoxoxa ngemiba yemivuzo. Ufuna uqonda ke into yoba bethetha ntoni ngaloo mazwi kanye ngaloo nto leyo?
Yes, to be a part of the resolving of the issues of the problem at the mine.
Uthetha uthi kuba inxalenye ke yokusombulula ngengxaki ezisemgodini,
which indeed the management, at the end of the day, if you look at the agreement that was signed, AMCO was part of it and he signed that agreement.
uthi ke uyabona ke ekugqibeleni apha nakubaphathi xana kuthe kwasayinwa kwatyikitywa ne-AMCU iye yaba yinxalenye yosisivumelwano.
I'll come to that. Let's not run ahead of ourselves. But do I understand it correctly at this point, on the morning of the 16th, you say to Lonmin, I want to be part of the negotiation with the workers if the strike comes to an end. Is that correct?
To be part to solve the problem, yes.
Uthi ke befuna uba inxalenye emva kokuba i-strike siphelile uthi ke yona isizathu bethethe ngamanye amazwi ukuba xa bakwazi ukusombulula ingxaki.
Now, I'd like to have an answer to my question. I, AMCO, the president of AMCO, want to be party to the discussions with the workers if the strike comes to an end, the discussion clearly in the context of a claim for 12,500 per month.
Remember, this issue was, the strike was outside the bargaining forums. It was something that was illegal or unprotected. So AMCO has members there. So we wanted to be part of that solution. Yes, you are correct.
Tike uthetha inyani ke ngokubana abanye abantu bebekhona bebepha kwelo qhankqalazo belingakhuselekanga bingabe AMCU uthi uthetha inyani ke into bana bebefuna uba xa uqhankqalazo luphelele nabo babe yinxalenye ekusombululeni iingxaki.
Then you go on and you say, I am a straightforward person. When I do things, I do it. If I do not do it, I do not do it. Then you discharge your police and go and kill those people, but the blood will be on Lonmans' hands. What did you mean by that?
Because the management has reneged from its commitment
What
Uthi ke ngoku-
commitment?
that they will engage with their workers with their grievances of the workers once they return back to work peacefully.
uthi ke ngoku yena umuntu onentetho ngqo into xa ivumelana uyavumelana okanye akavumelani xa ingavumelani uthi ke ngoku into yoba amapolisa angahamba ayobulala abantu kodwa loo nto leyo kuzotsho ukuthi izothetha into yobana igazi labantu lisezandleni ze-lawnman bethetha ntoni ngaloo nto leyo na
And
yena
you're-
uthetha ngenxa yento yokubana uthi abaphathi baye baguquka kwinto bebekade beyithembisile ngaphambili ukuba bazawuyenza.
And remember, yesterday, your client mentioned that he will tell the police to go in the mountain and do their job.
Uthi ukhumbule ke ngoku abo bameleyo bathe okanye wayethe uzoxela amapolisa phaa entabeni into yoba bahambe bayokwenza umsebenzi wabo.
Mr. Matunja, it's preposterous to suggest that my client Lonman will negotiate with the strikers, they lay down their arms, they come back from the copy, they go to work, and then Lonman says, I don't want to work with you in the structures. That's nonsense.
You'll remember, if you continue, management committed that they will address their grievances, and subsequent to that, the management of Lonmin further made mention that they are no longer committed because they've got 2-year agreement.
Uthi ke
Berger, before
bevumile-
you carry on, I tell you I have a difficulty with cross-examination on this document. It may be that it's not a real difficulty, maybe you can solve it for me. But you're cross-examining on what he said, and I can see, and I've read ahead, there's some passages you're going to put them in due course, which will be very important. But every now and again, it says speaks in vernacular.
Yes.
So, and we haven't got the vernacular, nor do we have a translation of the vernacular. So he's at a bit of a disadvantage, because you're cross-examining him in effect on extracts in English of what he said. Now, it may be that the bits in the vernacular take the matter no further, and don't render the cross-examination unfair or anything of that sort. But, and Mr. Brainders isn't objecting, so perhaps I'm being oversensitive. But there is a problem that I must put to you, because it's my duty to protect this witness as I have to protect every witness against cross-examination, which may not be fair. So I put the problem to you. If there's an answer to it, please give it to me and we can carry on.
Yes. Chair, I haven't seen the vernacular, I haven't seen a transcription of that. I intend to pose questions to this witness on the English which he understands and which Mr. Mokoena understood. And that tells a story by itself. If in re-examination there is a different version put, so be it. But at this stage, I'd like to have permission to proceed on this line. There's some very important passages here in English.
Very important passage, particularly at the top of page 3, which don't appear to be interrupted by
There's no
passages of
vernacular
vernacular.
there, Chair. There's no
but
vernacular.
my difficulty perhaps relates to the cross-examination dealing with the first half of page 2, where the vernacular is interspersed.
Let
but I
me
see,
leave that.
Yes, perhaps you leave that.
I'm happy to leave that and go where there is no vernacular. for my
Mr. Brainders, you turned on your microphone, but I think in view of Mr. Berger's statement, he won't cross-examine anymore on page 2, or the first half of page 2. The point you were intending to raise may have fallen away.
The difficulty that we actually have is we've never heard the transcription. I mean, obviously we can sort that out by asking my learned friend over the course of the weekend whether we can listen to it, but we've never actually...
But it was in the bundle. If you thought it might be important, you had the right to go back to Lonman and say to them, look, this is in your bundle. We would like to hear the recording to satisfy ourselves the transcription is correct.
We got this on Monday, and in fact...
Well, so it's today's Friday.
No, that's true, but we put him into the witness box on Tuesday, and we actually hadn't, I haven't actually seen it. I know that my learned friend had talked about before this, he talked about a recording, and I was expecting that we'd be given a recording, and I've never seen the recording. In fact, I don't know whether it's part of the...
No, these are the transcriptions of the recording.
I understand that. What I'm saying is I thought there was a recording, a cell phone recording or something similar. Never seen that, so my difficulty at the moment is obviously we'd like to...
You said, I understand your difficulty, but there's another difficulty, and that is you were going to call him on a certain day. You then asked if you could hold him back for a couple of days because you still wanted some information from London, and you wanted to precognize your witness on the material that you were going to get from London. That facility was granted to you, and as I understand it, the material you asked for was given to you, and when you indicated you were ready, you then called him as a witness. So it's in the light of that I have difficulty in understanding what you're putting to me now.
We're speaking of 2 Mondays here. The material that we got from Lonman came the previous Monday, and so we had a few days. In fact, we then had a week to prepare him. This material came this Monday now, the 26th.
Sandra, but the point is you then were prepared to call him. That indicated to me that you were satisfied, that you were ready to call him, because the information that you'd been given was the information that you wanted. We now know you did get this information before you called him. But if you would like to reconsider your position, and you can obviously deal with it as you consider appropriate. But it may be, look, it's now nearly 12:20. I don't think Mr. Berger is going to, I think pretty certain, Mr. Berger is not going to finish his cross-examination before we take the adjournment around about 1 o'clock. And as you know, we're not sitting this afternoon because there's a meeting of the parties. So if Mr. Berger cross-examines not on page 2, but on the subsequent page 3 and possibly further, before we take the adjournment, and you can raise the questions you want to raise with him after that, and we can carry on Monday.
Let's put it to you, we, as I say, we expected a recording because we were told that there was a recording. We didn't get one. I'm not necessarily pointing a finger at my learned friend. I'm simply saying we didn't. That's what we were looking out for. We didn't get it. There was this transcription. We haven't put this to him. We haven't consulted him over this. That doesn't mean he can't be cross-examined. Obviously, I'm not going to stop Mr. Berger. What I'm pointing out to you, Commissioners, is what the particular difficulty that we had. We hadn't seen a recording because that's the basis on which we dealt with all the information that came through to us.
ingxaki ngoku ekhoyo into yokubana igqwetha lakamnumzana Mathunjwa likhala ngokuba khange bafumane into erekhodiweyo lezi zinto
And we got it
zibhalwe
on
buzwa
4:30
ngazo.
on Monday afternoon. I mean, I'm not, again, that's, he hasn't seen this precisely because, as I say, our focus was on this recording that we were expecting. We didn't get that. So,
You know what you have to say.
I accept
Let's
so
ask
that
Mr. Berger if he's got the recording, if he can make it available to you, when he can make it available to you. And then you said you're not objecting to the cross-examination, as I understand it, on the subsequent passages in this. You can sort it out later. But let's ask Mr. Berger the simple question. Is there a recording which can be made available?
No, we've provided, and I don't know when, I think on Monday, 3 transcriptions. It was, in view of the case, difficult to get it from our clients. That we've handed in, and that's
I
available.
understand that, but your clients must have had a recording
I don't have
from
a-
which the transcription was made.
I don't know. The only recording, and I don't want to have a debate with my learned friend, who I call a friend, about recordings. The recording I have in mind is that we were expecting a video recording from ETV, which was arriving on Friday and then 10 o'clock Monday and then... And it turned out that there was no such a thing, but that was from my learned friend. So I think we may be at cross purposes.
No, so I can, sir, no, let me just explain something, Mr. Commissioners. I know.
Sorry, I think you are at cross purposes.
No, we're not.
He thinks you're talking about one recording, you're talking about another.
No, we're not.
The simple point is he's got a transcription. There must have been a recording from
Yes.
which the transcription was made. And the question that I asked Mr. Berger is, that recording, I take it's available somewhere, can it be made available to you? Perhaps we can, if that problem is sorted out, we can then carry on.
Can I just for the record establish this? It's correct. Mr. Berger is quite correct. We talked about the video recording of the second address on the copy. But before we spoke about that, Mr. Berger actually alerted me to the fact that there is a recording of a conversation between Mr. Mathunjwa and somebody from Lonman on the 16th. I was aware that something like this was coming. I was expecting it. We looked out for it. We didn't see it. And so we didn't, because we didn't see it, because that's the way all these things came in, is in the form of recordings, and then you get transcripts. So we could listen to it and ask him to confirm that it was that. Because we didn't see it,
Right, but you did get a transcription of the meeting on the morning of the 16th, the meeting between Mr. Mathunjwa and London. So, but maybe if you'd been alerted to some possible problem, you'd have asked for the recording. You didn't. But I understand, I take it he's going to give you the recording. And you will then both listen to it at your leisure and check the transcription and get the passages of the vernacular translated if you consider it appropriate. But let Mr. Berger use up the time available to us today to carry his cross-examination on a little bit further, which may even help you to direct your investigations about the recording when you get it. Mr. Berger, would you like to carry on?
Into bithethwa ngayo ke apha into yokuba bekufunwa into erekhodiweyo apho ezi statements zibhalwe khona kuthi yathenjiswa ke into yoba usenior counsel uMnumzana uBheka uzawunika igqwetha likaMnumzana uMathunjwa into yoba azoyimamela nto kodwa ke sawuqhubeke ngayo imibuzo ngestatement esibhaliweyo.
Mr. Matunjwa, it is then raised the coming back of the workers, and you'll see, we don't know who is talking here, it's called Lonman, opposite line 11. And the Lonman speaker says, yes, you see, in fact, I was under the impression that this session is mainly for that, for the return to work procedure, which I will gladly take you through. It's not complicated. So essentially, people must just report at the shafts, and then the shafts will arrange on the shaft induction. So the induction is a non-issue. Lonman says they must go back to the shafts, and there'll be a shaft induction. You then say, or there's background noise, and somebody says yes. Lonman then says, but on the other side, the first part that you spoke about, I think that is something that I'm not mandated to talk about. I do not know if Jomo has the mandate. And you say, no, I mean fine. That is why we said Barnard must be in, because there is a commitment that the grievances of the workers who are on strike will be addressed through union structures. We fully support. I'm raising the issue of technicality because I know you guys, I've dealt with you. I know you've got a forked tongue. If I may say it without insulting you, you've got a forked tongue like this. It took us almost 2 years to conclude a simple recognition agreement with technicalities that are not bound there. So I know, Ubuti, why I'm raising this point. There's no issue that the grievances will be addressed through the structures. I'm raising the issue of technicality that AMCO, you will be saying AMCO is not a bargaining agent. Now, is that a correct transcription of what you said?
It could be that, but not in the sense of bargaining. I was saying when the issues are addressed, those problems, AMCO will be saying is not a bargaining agent. This is a strike. The strike is outside bargaining structures. It's unprotected strike. In other words, it's an illegal strike. So that's what I was referring. My participation there was mainly to say, this is the problem that has occurred. Let be AMCO part of the solution. Hence, I said earlier on when you say, I mustn't run forward. At the end of the day, we were introduced in the very same bargaining structure.
Uthi ke ngoku yena into njengoba bekuthiwa ke ngoku uyabazi abantu baselonbini into bangabantu abanjani uthetha ngoba bengathi amalwimi abo anjengefolokhwe ngoba bazofuna usebenzisa ubuchule. Uthi yena ingxaki into yobana besenze into yobana kuze kuzokuziswa isombululo ngoba bekukho oluqhankqalazo belingakho semthethweni ngoba ekugqibeleni uye waba yinxalenye ke yothethathethwano ekugqibeleni.
What was the technicality you were referring to?
To be part of resolving the problem.
Xa ethetha ngobuchule ke uthetha ngokuba yinxalenye ekusombululeni ingxaki.
You wanted AMCO to be recognized as a bargaining agent.
I know the processes of being recognized at the mine as a bargaining agent. I'm clearly with that one.
Uyayazi inkqubo ofuneka umuntu ayilandele ukwenzele uzokuba ukwamkeleka ukwazi uzoxoxa ngemiba ebhekiselele kwimivuzo.
In these instances, we wanted to be part of that forum, of that problem. Remember, many things have been said that AMCO is on strike, is forcing people to go on strike. People are killed under the disguise of AMCO. So we wanted to be part of that forum.
Uthi ke befuna ukuba babe yinxalenye ke iyelo gqiza elo ngoba kwakuthiwa iAMCO lena idubula abantu ikwayiyo le ingene kuqhankqalazo olungakhuselekanga.
Mr. Matunjwa, you wanted Lonman to agree that if the strikers come off the copy, Lonman must recognize you as a bargaining agent to negotiate with the strikers.
Can you read me in the script?
No, I'm asking you that. I'll read you the script afterwards.
I'm saying we wanted to be part of the forum. Hence, the strike was outside the bargaining structures. That was my answer earlier on.
That's not correct. You wanted to be a bargaining agent and you wanted Lonman to recognize you as such.
Xa kuthiwa ke ngoku yena befuna into kubana
accept that?
azofumana indlela yoba azokwazi ukuthi makakwazi ukungena anikwe ilungelo lokuba ayoxoxa ngemiba yemivuzo yabantu akavumelani kunye nayo leyo.
To be recognized in that forum to deal with these issues at Lonmin.
Uthi ke befuna ke ukwamkelwa into yoba abe yinxalenye yelo forum uba kuzokwazi ukuba kusonjulwa okanye kuphicotshwe imiba yase-Lonmin.
Which indeed,
I understand you want to say something.
Yeah, he hasn't read the transcript yet and might perhaps assist to give him an opportunity to go through it.
Can I read what you've said with you, and then I'll pose the question again? The top of type page 3. 695. You will be saying AMCO is not a bargaining agent. That is where we need to address those issues before. That other issue is not. If we've got a commitment that those technicalities will not be raised, we want to solve the problem, fine. We're going to the mountain. So you must get Barnard about that issue and get a mandate. But if he is not committing himself to that one, let him discharge his police to go and kill those people.
you will remember that the workers, they've made it clear in the mountain, as you alluded earlier on. What did they say? They said, you, AMCO, you must come back tomorrow and address us. And this is the problem that we wanted to solve. It was not about point scoring.
Uthi ke ayisukuba befuna uzenzela igama yena phayana makhumbule into yoba abantu ke ngoku babethile into yoba makaze nengxelo aphinde abuyele kuye ngemini elandelayo.
And then again, if that was the case, I would suppose, if that was the case, that was the issue of a bargaining, why did I proceed to the mountain?
Uthi ke ngokuba yena ke befuna ufumana ithuba loba azokwazi ukuthi uxoxa phambi kwabantu abaxoxa ngemiba yemivuzo kutheni ke ngoku eye pha yena kwikopi na entabeni.
Mr. Matunjwa, you're playing with the lives of workers here. You want a position at the bargaining table, and listen what you say. I read it to you again. But if he is not, and you refer to Barnard Mokoena, but if he is not committing himself to that one, let him discharge his police to go and kill those people as Ogwana and Barnard was their mandate yesterday.
Kuthiwa ke apha mnumzana uMathunjwa udlala ngobomi babantu ngoba wathi ukuba akazoyenza lonto leyo ke yena umnumzana uBarnard makathumele ke lo mapolisa wabo ahamba ayobulala babantu.
Let's talk facts. Mr. Mathunjwa, irrespective of the commitment that he never received from Barnard, but he went to the mountain.
Uthi masithethe ke ngoku into ezenzekileyo inyani into yoba ngoba bengafumananga loo nto befuna ifumane kuBarnard kodwa ekugqibeleni uye waya entabeni.
He did appeal to the people to leave copy.
Uthi waye wababongoza nabantu ukuthi mabahambe phaya kwikopi.
Even the police was not given to me a security to escort me. No vehicle was given to me to go to the copy, but I proceeded because I care.
Uthi ke zange anikwe nqwelo kanyambi namapolisa ukuthi ahambe nawo kuya pha kodwa ke waye wazihambela wayapho ngoba yena uyakhathala.
It's not that I was going there with an ambition that I want to be a bargaining agent. If it was my ambition, I could have got into my car and drive straight to my office.
Uthi ke ngoku yena zange aye apho enenjongo yokubana ufuna unikwa ithuba loba kwazi ukuthi azoxoxa ngemiba yemivuzo ukuba kwakunjalo ngewazi ke wangena emotweni yakhe wagoduka.
Especially, it was well known that those workers who are on strike is not only AMCO members.
Ingakumbi ke xa bekusaziwa noba abantu babeqhankqalaza abasebenzi yayingasingamelungu eAMCO qha.
Yes, no, I can make submissions now to the Commission on these facts, but can I just put in this context to you Mr. Sedatz's evidence? You have a statement from him in a supplementary Lonman Index, and you'll find Mr. Sidat on pages 1 to 6. I'll hand that up as an exhibit just to make it more accessible. 0014, I believe, Chair. And I take it out of the chronology of my questions, but it is relevant now. Mr. Sidat is a director of Lonman, is that correct?
Is what he told me.
Utuxelelwe ke na nguSidat ntoba yena uyi-director yaseLonmin.
You've met him before.
What do you mean before?
I can't put it in simpler English. You knew him by the 16th of August. You had met him before.
I know him from PHP Bulletin.
Yes.
Uthi ke wayimazi kwangaphambili emazela kule ndawo begqibo ikhankanya.
Now he will tell the Commission in paragraph 5.1, this is what happened on that morning that we're reading about. Look at page 4, please, and read with me, because I want your comment for it.
Uthi ke le nto izawufundwa ngoku yinto azawufika ayithetha apha yena phambi kweCommission umnumzana uSidat.
He says, on the morning of the 16th of August, I traveled to Marikana and went straight to Lonman's offices at the LPD block. As I entered the reception area, I saw Mr. Matunjwa. I greeted him and he asked me what I was doing there. I, in turn, asked him about the developing situation at the mine. Let me stop there. Is it correct so far, to the best of your knowledge?
For the best of my knowledge, that's correct.
Uthi ke uyavumelana lento ntoba kuthiwa ngentsasa yange-16 ka-August wahamba waye eMarikana waye eLonmin kwiofisi ye-LDP uthi xa ingena kwi-reception wabona umnumzana uMathunjwa wambulisa yena ke ngokuye wambuza into yoba ufuna ntoni phaya uthi ndathi kuye mna ndambuza ngale meko iye iba maxongo emgodini. Uyavumelana naye umnumzana uMathunjwa.
I read on. He approached me, says Mr. Sidat, and we then moved to one of the passages leading from the reception area as there was a SAPS press conference in progress in the adjoining Hossi boardroom, and we were asked not to make any noise. He, referring to you, Mr. Matunjwa, then said to me, quote, give me a place at the bargaining table and I will get the workers off the copy, unquote.
That's totally untrue. I'll dispute it.
Uthi ke ngoku umnumzana Mathunjwa uyayikhanyela ke le ngxelo ithethwe ngumnumzana uSidat yokuba uye waza ke yena umnumzana uMathunjwa bahamba wabini epassagini eyanga ku-reception apho kwakukho ke ngoku i-conference yamapolisa bantu bentaba uthi ke ngoku kubathe bacelwa ke apho bangayenzi ingxolo uthi ke umnumzana Mathunjwa uyawabuza wathi kuye kuSidat intoba khandiphi indawo ke ngoku ndibe nendawo okanye ndibe inxalenye yokuxoxa ngemiba yemivuzo ndizawukwenza abantu emva koko intoba basuke phaa kwekopi ngoku umnumzana uMathunjwa uyayikhanyela le nto leyo uthi ayiyinyani.
And again, in his introduction, he mentioned that is something like non-executive, if he was correct with what he was saying here.
Uba uthetha inyani ke kuloo nto leyo wayethe yena akasiyo executive.
And?
No, I'm just saying that's what also he said.
Why do you say that? What's the relevance of that?
There is a relevance because I asked him what is he doing at Lonmin, what he is. Then he explained himself what he is.
Uthi xa imbuza intoba usebenza ntoni phaa uye wazichaza uthi ke kule nto gqibo ichaza kuyingena ngaloo ndlela.
I read on. He says, I was not a Lonman Exco member, but, and I put in said, there's a word out, but said that I would convey his message to the Exco. I did say to him that his request was dependent on the present recognition agreements which were in place and that it all had to be dealt with within the proper framework. Mr. Mathunjwa did not respond.
Uthi ke ngoku uye wamchazela uMr. Mathunjwa into yobana yena ayililungu le-Exco kodwa ke lo mlayezo uzawudlulisa use ku-Exco wathi kuye into yokubana isicelo sakhe sawuxhomekeka into yobana kukwesivumelwano wamkelekile na into yokuba ayifumane loo ndawo leyo nokuthi yonke umgaqo funeka ulandelwe uthi ekugqibeleni ke zange aphendule yena umnumzana uMathunjwa.
I don't know whether Mr. Sidat is deliberately confusing facts here, because these utterances was based on my first visit from Kopi when I was phoning him, asking his intervention, that I don't get any cooperation from his management. Is when then he managed. The issue of bargaining was never, ever mentioned or discussed on that day with him.
Uthi kayazi nokubana ke umnumzana uSudat uyayiguqula yonke lento le ngoba wayethetha ngenxa into babethethile ngomnxeba ngenxa into eyayisenzeka kwekopi. Kuthi ke yena umnumzana uMathunjwa zange kancokole naye ngendaba ze-bargaining ukuhamba uyokuxoxa ngemiba yemivuzo.
The message that he was referring to is the message that I spoke him through the phone when I was phoning him, that there is no cooperation, and he mentioned that he's not part of the management of Lonmin, but he will convey the message, and he never returned back to me.
Uthi ke lo umyalezo wayethetha ngaye kungenxeba umnumzana uMathunjwa akukho ntsebenziswano ekhoyo wathi yena ke akayinxalenye yabaphathi baselonmini kodwa ke uzawugqithisa lo myalezo lowo. Nokuthi zange abuye kodwa emva abuyele kuye.
And Mr. Kwadi will say immediately after you and Mr. Sidat had spoken, Mr. Sidat went back to Mr. Kwadi and he said to Mr. Kwadi, Mr. Mathunjwa had said to me, give me a place at the bargaining table and I will get the workers off the copy. Words to that effect.
Mr. Kwadi, maybe you'll be referring the earlier morning when I was saying that I want to be part of the forum.
Uthi ke ngokumnumzana Sidat wayoxela uMr. Kwadi into ba unumzana
Of the recording that you read to me.
Ufuna ukuba abe yinxalenye yokuxoxa ngemivuzo uthi ke ngoku yena bebhekisa. You are referring to?
And Mr. Mathunjwa, is it possible that because you couldn't get a seat at the table, that you went back to the copy on the 16th of August and you gave that inflammatory speech to the workers?
That is not correct.
Akubuza into yobana ke ngenxa benganikwanga isihlalo kuthi axoxe yiyo loo nto iyokwenza uba yokwenza intetho ephembelelwa okanye exhokonqa abantu uthi akavumelani kunye nayo leyo umnumzana uMathunjwa.
All what I was saying in the mountain was to convince the workers to return back to work, even though the management has reneged from its commitment.
Uthi into awayenza indabeni kwakuzama ukucenga kokubongoza abantu ukuba babuyele emsebenzini nangona ke umqeshi abaphathi babekade berhoxile okanye bengaqhubekeki ngento bebeyithembisile.
Chair, I have to go over to a new subject now. Is this perhaps a convenient time to...
Chair, before you adjourn, may I deal with two matters which need to be dealt with while everyone is...
You say you're going to go over to another topic. Wouldn't it be appropriate to put the passage at page 3 of Exhibit 0013 from line, I think it must be line 12 to 19, just to sort of round this point off? And then if you do that, and then when we've had the witnesses answer, then we can hear what Mr. Budland has to tell us.
Absolutely. May I still stay with Exhibit 00? I don't remember. 13 on page 3, and may I read with you from line 12, Mr. Mathunjwa? Mr. Kwadi is speaking. He says, okay, Joseph, I think it is clear to me what you're saying. You're basically saying you will go to the mountain on condition that you get some kind of a guarantee that the company will negotiate with AMCO on the demands of the people that are on the mountain. That is what you're saying. It is. Did Mr. Kwadi say that?
Kuthiwa ke into ba ndiyakuva ke ukuthi nimnumzana uMathunjwa ufuna ukuthi ngamanye amazwi uhambe uyothetha nabantu ukuba uyaqinisekisa into ba xa uyaphayana uzawunikwa isiqinisekiso inantsika ilonmini. Kuyabuza into oyithethileyo na kanye le nto ayithethileyo na umnumzana uKwadi na?
Mr. Kwadi, line 12. Let me read it with you. You didn't have it before you. Read with me, Mr. Mtundra. Okay, Joseph, says Mr. Kwadi, I think it is clear to me what you're saying. You're basically saying you will go to the mountain on condition that you get some kind of a guarantee that the company will negotiate with AMCO on the demands of the people that are on the mountain. That is what you're saying it is. You confirm that he said that?
Then my response there, it says,
No, I'm asking, do you confirm that's what he said?
yes, Mr. Kwadi.
Good, let me read on then. You then said, or whether AMCO will be part of the demand. I mean, according to those people whom they want to negotiate on their behalf, yes. That what you said?
Yes, I'm still referring to the forum, yes.
Kuthiwa ke ukumnumzana
Ask you
ukwati wathi okay Joseph ndicinga uba kucacile into oyithethayo kum uthi ngamanye amazwi uzoya entabeni xa kuphela qha ukuba kho isiqinisekiso uba ikhampani izawukwazi ukuthethisana ne-AMCU ngeemfuno zabantu abasentabeni yile nto uyithethayo na waphendula ke umnumzana uMathunjwa ngokwale nto ndiyifundayo into yokuba okanye mhlawumbi i-AMCU ingaba yinxalenye yezo mfuno okonye ngokuya kuya ngokabantu uba bona bafuna ukuthi bathethelwe ngobani na uthi ewe.
And then Mr. Kwadi said, yes, okay, I think I might upset you here, but I'm going to say it because if I do not say it, you will accuse me of being dishonest. Okay. As things stand now, and you will say it is technicalities, but I need to say it to you. As things stand now, AMCO has an agreement with Lonmin on issue at Currie Mine. That is what is in place now. And what you are saying, the RDOs that are currently on strike are not Currie-only RDOs. They are RDOs from all over Lonmin. And you say, yes.
That's correct.
Uyavumelana nento bana wathi into bana ezi RDO eziphayana ayingasoze Currie zodwa ngeze Lonmin yonke. Uyavumelana nento Mnumzana Mathunjwa.
Mr. Kwadi says, so you are saying that if this issue is to be resolved, there has to be, call it a central discussion for lack of a better word. There has to be a central forum to deal with the issue of RDOs across Marikana operations, and you are saying the only way you will go to the mountain is if you are guaranteed a place there, and you say exactly.
That's correct. That's what I've said.
Uthi ke ngoku xa ethetha umnumzana uKwadi wathi ngoko ke ngoku
Mr. Matunja, but
ngoko
you're
ke
playing,
ngoku uthi indaba into yokubana efuneka isombululo lapha into yokubana kufuneke kubekho umba ozawusombululwa uthi ke ngoku kufuneka kubekwe kuforum ezawukwazi ukuthi izosombulula ke ngoku imiba ye-RDO kwiMarikana yonke and nokuthi uthi uzawuya entabeni qha xa uqinisekiswa into yoba uzayifumana indawo kuyo na uthi ke yena mnumzana Mathunjwa xa iphendula ngqo.
This is exactly what happened.
Uthi yiloo nto ngqo
But
eyenzekileyo.
at that point in time, even though there was no commitment that was given to me, the facts that I'm talking about, I went to the mountain and talked to the people. Hence, you said earlier on, let's not run fast. The exactly thing that was called, there was a forum that was called. Everyone was present. The bishops were present. AMCO was present. Workers' delegation, which are not recognized at the mine, were part of the process. This is exactly what they did at the end.
Uthi ke noba besithi abangabaliki ngaphambili kakhulu ke unantsika senior councillor Bheka zonke izinto ezo zenzekile ngokuba bonke lo forum yayo yabakhona nobishop babekhona nabantu abengenazi union babemelwe apho ngoba naye wayithetha lento wayithe uzayenza ubuze ikopi nangona kwakho sithembiso sasenziwe ngela xesha.
Mr. Matunja, you were playing a game with frightening odds. You were saying you'll get the people off the copy on condition that you get a place at the negotiating table, meaning I don't get a place, I won't get them off.
Let's talk about the facts. Mr. Mathunjwa went to the copy without any escort from the police and tell the workers to leave copy.
Xa kuthiwe ke ngoku Mr. Mathunjwa wayesithi yena uzoyoxela abantu ukuba basuke entabeni qha xa bethenjiswa into yoba uzawukwazi ufumana isihlalo xa kuxoxwa ngemiba yemivuzo uthi yena into endizoyithethe iyinyaniso into yoba umnumzana ke ngoku uJoseph Mathunjwa waya phayana kwikopi okanye entabeni engakhatshwa ngamapolisa waziyela.
Thank you, Chair. I didn't finish, but if I may stand down at this point.
Very well. Before we adjourn, Mr. Budden wants to make some announcements, or, as I understand.
I apologize for interjecting earlier, but I was afraid we would adjourn before I could deal with these matters. One is a purely administrative matter. Chairperson, we've been handed a set of keys which were left by one of the people present on the chairs. If the person who's lost his keys, please go to the administration office at the back and they have your keys for you. The other matter, Chair, is that the parties will now meet to deal with the phase 2 questions. That meeting will have to take place here because the council chamber is otherwise occupied at the moment. Can I ask everyone to stay and that we get started within 5 minutes of the adjournment? There's a pressing need on the part of many parties that we finish by 2:30 at the latest. Thank you, Chairman.
Ucela uqala uba utata izitixo zakhe ezilahlekileyo zilanda ku-administration nentlanganiso ke ngoku emva kwemizuzu emihlanu izawuhlala ichotshelwe intlanganiso leyo ezawuthi mhlawumbi iphume ngo2:30.
The Commission will adjourn until 10 o'clock on Monday morning.
Uqityiwe bazali siyawuqhubekeka khona ngomvulo ngentsimbi 10.